What are you trying to say? That I'm having an Alice in Wonderland moment?
No. I'm just trying to find out how long this boiled state you're in will last.
Kingdom, I am the queen, king, princess, and prince. All rolled into one.
This one is going to last for a while.
At your boiled state.
Yes.
Wow.
She's in a boiled state.
Yeah.
Shitty.
You
City.
can't even talk because the shirt is just
The shirt.
hot.
It's, I was about to say.
I know you want to talk about the shirt and the same time it says CT. And then, so it says...
Shitty, you're sad.
CC.
Talk like the people from the left.
And this guy, him, if you look carefully, finds our rela.
I'm telling you, there's something somewhere. Cousin.
First cousin.
It's not
Somewhere.
Yes. And others will tell you, he's also my Kashin. So what?
How are you, though? That shirt is beautiful.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. As the statement that I made yesterday is a constant. You have very fine taste in shirts.
See, I'm just trying to oppress somebody.
And the buttons, you know. Hey.
This man has taste. Hidden talent. Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. Very kind words.
You had a good day?
I did. I did. This electricity, what's happening? It seems to be going off all over the place.
Which electricity?
Steam.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, we were talking about yesterday.
City is telling us as if when the electricity went off in his house yesterday, he sent us message to tell us, come on, there's no lights in my house.
It's as if he's holding it. This electricity.
You didn't tell us. We didn't know. Sorry. So has it come back now?
No problem with electricity. Just that the place I went to yesterday and electricity was off, and it wasn't one place. So I found it surprising. Yes.
Okay.
So I figured something seems not to be working right.
Something is not proper.
Something is
Somewhere.
Not yes. It's not way.
On Saturday, there was an outage affecting several parts of the city.
Was it something that they had announced in advance?
No, it was something accidental that they announced after the fact.
After the fact.
By the way,
We regret to announce
there will be
that
an
there
outage
there
now.
has been
This suffering
that
we're
there is
experiencing.
an ongoing power outage in parts of, I think it was parts of Westlands, Kitisuru, Parklands, some parts of the CBD or something like
It
that.
becomes an issue because for the longest time now, that hasn't been the norm. There was a time when power outages were normal. No. In fact, the surprise was when you found that you had constant power. Then you said,
There's
"Hey,
something
what's
wrong
happened?"
with you.
You even asked, what's happened today?
I think it's still normal in some parts. You hear this language of people saying when it rains, Kenya Power na anua stima.
There was an,
Isinyeshewe.
there was that time. They even got a name. Kenya Power and the Darkness.
I came here and I heard people used to say Kenya Paraffin Lights and Candles.
Yes, now that tells you. But Kenya Power has moved from that to the point where you actually take power for granted.
Yep.
It's a norm, it's a constant.
Welcome to Lagos.
And then
You will not see.
There will be no power.
Not like you will see. This one you will not see.
it's a reality that exists even in the now and here.
I'm telling you, Lister came and set up a local plant. Why? They knew.
They knew.
That's not.
So this Kenyan thing, you guys don't have.
Have people now bought the silent generators? I might still then in every neighborhood.
Are you hearing what I said? I said Lister has set up a local assembly plant in Nigeria. Why?
Assembly plant
That's what I'm telling you.
for generators.
You got it.
Why?
Okay, as opposed to plows. Generator. Okay, just confirming.
But the cartels are reigning strong and supreme.
Let me just ask the question again so that I understand. No Kenyan?
There's NEPA.
Okay.
National Electric Power Authority is like your Kenyan.
Kindaruma Dam.
No, we have another dam, but
Do you
it's
have
not called
7
Dam.
forks? Like, do you have big rivers?
Yes, we do.
Like our river Nairobi?
Remember, these guys have a whole province full of rivers. River state.
Yeah.
The country was named for the Niger River.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes, they
So, and then big dams.
We have many.
There you, so now,
There's Yankari. There's, huh?
What do you guys do with your dams? I think this is what we need to ask. I mean, water, dam, passing through. Electricity production?
We produce electricity, but then now why give it to the people when you can use it to make money for yourself?
So what do they do with the electricity?
They provide the whole national grid for Nigeria. Supplies the entire, powers the entire national grid for Niger.
That country called Niger. Is that
Niger is Niger. But there's Niger State in Nigeria.
Does Niger have enough money that you can say that, I mean, this is commercially viable?
They're paying Nigeria now. They're paying Nigeria for the power.
Who else do you guys have you guys colonized?
More than Nigeria more than Nigerians would pay.
What do you
I mean, I'm trying to understand the business sense of not selling it domestically and then you export it to go and sell to this other country called Niger.
Yeah, but at the same time, then you have individuals who then can collude and have a partnership with Lister, for example, to continue bringing generators into the country, and people are going to buy and use those, making money as opposed to providing power. It's one of those things about development that people and leaders just don't realize or understand, or choose not to understand, or choose not to act, whereby if you actually developed your people, you would do better, you would be better. So
I'm sure they understand all that.
that's what I'm saying. Choose not to act.
Are there any other countries in the
So
neighborhood?
this country has the richest woman and the richest man in the continent, and very many other wealthy
Biggest
people.
woman, she's overtaken Isabella.
Yeah.
Yeah, she has.
Or is it since Isabella's having problems?
Even before.
Even before. Well, Isabella wasn't really being considered because, I mean, father connection.
Father, not there. Person who has the money, the one who's considered.
So that's why it's a lucky jar in this case.
Okay.
Now she get the money.
Let me ask the question: are there any other neighbors that Nigeria, the country of Nigeria, provides power to, apart from Niger?
Partly Cameroon, partly Togo. The countries that we share borders with. Yes, but not completely in Togo and Cameroon the way it is in Niger.
Niger is.
Niger. Yeah. It's not a laughing matter. They think weak me, I beg.
Okay, welcome to the show, everybody. Today, the 29th day of September, Kimefuguriwo is open. Is all open. Let the party begin, as the standard says.
Hey.
Yeah. It's back to the goodies. So, we'll be discussing that throughout the show today. And also, we have to look at, what's the place of COVID-19 in all these celebrations? And so where are we? Let's look at the numbers. Yesterday, how many people passed on yesterday? The announcement yesterday was like, I think 9 people died.
9 people died, and there were only 53 cases yesterday. So, again, the question is, in terms of how many were tested, from 244 on Sunday to 53 cases yesterday with 9 deaths, bringing the total tally of deaths in the country to 700. That was as of yesterday. So this is what is being looked at. Testing continues, hoping to continue with these over the next couple of weeks. Again, according to the Ministry of Health, that they hope to do more and carry out more testing. Again, it came out yesterday that the fear is that there would be more infections if precautionary measures are not taken. And I think we heard this from the speech given from the Ministry of Health, from the remarks made by the president, from the remarks made, by other stakeholders that, in as much as we want to open up the economy, the threat that is being posed is still very high. The president said yesterday also that it's at the point of victory. It's at the point where you think that you can raise up your hands and rejoice, that is when now whatever then could bring in defeat would creep in. And so that's why the calls to remain vigilant and do everything that you need to do to make sure that it doesn't creep in and you don't get to a second wave is absolutely important. So this sentiment is what fueled the decisions and then the directives that were given yesterday.
There's a question that CTU had asked, and you've asked many times, whether the people who have died, they have died as a result of complications from COVID, or they have tested positive for COVID and while undergoing treatment for other things, then they also died, or maybe they even tested positive posthumously. Because the question I want to ask is, the 700 people who have died and they are tagged as COVID deaths, did they have to die?
Or was it COVID that actually caused their death? Because you may be COVID positive, but yes, you could argue that the complications that COVID brings about eventually ends in your death, but something specifically will be the cause of that death. So the question is, how severe was that condition brought about by COVID?
Yeah.
Was it what led to it, or did it contribute to it? Because you can be asymptomatic, you can be COVID positive, but you're not sick.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with you as such, so to speak. You're not about to die. And yet, you could also be about to die and you don't have COVID.
True.
You could have complications that are not COVID related in any way, and yet,
You're COVID positive.
yes. You see, where I'm coming from, Eric, is people were dying before COVID. So, have the numbers of those who die in the country increased that significantly as a result of COVID?
Is it average number of deaths plus 700?
Yes, exactly. It's something that I think we are still going to continue probably discussing.
It would be important to understand. And also, let's assume that the 700 have died as a result of complications caused by COVID. Right?
COVID-related complications, yes.
Did they have to die?
No.
Like if we look at that whole treatment, how they sought their care, what kind of treatment that they were receiving, I mean, what kind of care they were receiving, can we then say that, wow, it was so bad that they actually, there's nothing more that the healthcare system could have done to save their lives? Could their lives have been saved?
You know, I don't know, but for every death that occurs due to an illness, there are those who will argue that this one was beyond redemption.
Yeah.
So this one was in a coma. There are those who say no, they may come out of the coma. There are those who say yes, had this matter been addressed as soon as it was noticed, the likelihood of them being alive would have been high. But then what throws this into a complete tailspin is maybe you've witnessed situations where you find a car that is mangled, literally mangled, and it looks like somebody crashed it. And you're told people escaped from that car with scratches.
And hurt, yes.
And you think, what?
How?
How? And they weren't thrown out of the car. Then a car has a small dent, and you're told somebody who was in that car died from complications that are caused by the accident. So sometimes the issue whether people stay alive or they die has very little to do, in my opinion, sometimes with the condition. But nonetheless, it would be good to know.
It would be. And then you find people who were otherwise healthy and then contracted COVID, but then got well.
Yes.
So it would be
Many.
yes, very many, right? And people who said it took them down completely. They didn't have any other pre-existing condition, etc., etc. They were fine. So I think it would be very interesting to see, of the 700 that died, children, middle-aged, older people, did they all have a pre-existing condition that might have been exacerbated by COVID, but it was not the reason for their death?
You know, the question Eric has asked this morning is really interesting. Fine, they may have had COVID, they may not have had COVID. That's my extension, but did they have to die?
You know, I'm thinking of that retired medical worker, was he in Wajir?
Wajir.
Who got COVID, needed hospitalization, needed oxygen. There was no oxygen. Right? From where I stand, that man did not have to die. And those are the questions I'm asking. Is it because of how our healthcare system is set up that some of these people have died? So somebody say they required hospitalization, they required an ICU bed, but there was no ICU bed immediately, and their condition worsened and deteriorated, they ended up dying. Or they required intubation, there was no ventilator available, they died. They required oxygen, there was no oxygen. Can we really say that these people, everything that could be done had been done by the time they were dying?
Actually, if you ask that question, then you need to go back and ask the question. When we say we don't have test kits, is it that, what is it? What are we talking about? Is it that we don't have money for test kits? Is it that the supply of test kits have been taken up by everybody else so that we can't get any? And if so, how? And then comes the question, those who are getting it, how are they getting it?
How are they getting it?
Yes. And then you bring that question down to whatever else you need to sustain and ensure that people stay alive. Do we have them? And if we don't, why don't we have them? What are the reasons behind our not having them? So the question that you ask now becomes a valid question. Now, if these questions are answered then, and all these things were in the positive, yes, we have, you could say, and the effort was made, is documented, you can say, actually, whatever could have been done was done.
Yeah.
But in the situation we're in, Eric, unfortunately, we cannot say that.
We don't know.
Yes, we can't say that because we don't know.
Absolutely, we just know that this is a statistic. 9 people were announced yesterday that they died out of COVID-19. What exactly caused their death? What led to their death? The circumstances under which they died? We don't know. 18 minutes to 6. Let's take a break, take a look at the weather, and then we continue with the stories. Good morning.
.24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
As the world changes, so do we. We adapt to our situations to bring out the best in us. This is why the Standard Group and Oxford University Press East Africa have partnered to bring you Tutor Summer Online. For just 10 shillings, you have unlimited access to the reputable source of revision materials conveniently. All you have to do is log into tutorsoma.standardmedia.co.ke and make the most of the time for all students, including candidates for both primary and secondary schools. So, as we stay home, we keep dreams of future successes alive while making homeschooling an achievable reality together, effectively. Tutor Summer Online. Log in to success. Partnership between the Standard Group and the Oxford University Press East
Nairobi
Africa.
This morning at 15 degrees. The good highs are 27 today. And in Nyeri, it's 14 degrees and mostly cloudy. Highs of 26 and lows of 14. Nakuru is clear this morning at 13. We will see a chance of rains later. Highs of 24 and lows of 12. It's partly cloudy in Eldoret. Highs of 23 today will be experienced. This Tuesday morning in Kisumu is partly cloudy at 19 degrees, going to highs of 28, coming down to lows of 18. Kakamega will experience rains later, going to highs of 26 and lows of 15. Light rain showers already being experienced in Mombasa, highs of 29 and lows of 24. That rain is going to continue for most parts of the day. 25 degrees and mostly cloudy in Malindi. It's going to warm up to 28 and come down to lows of 24. Cloudy conditions in Kampala at 19, highs of 26 and lows of 19, and the chance of rain still very heavy. Clear skies in Dar es Salaam at 23. It's likely going to fog up later, but we'll take a look at that. Going to highs of 31 and lows of 22. Clear skies in Johannesburg at 9. 24 the high and lows of 8 today, and those sunny conditions will continue. Lagos is experiencing thunderstorms this morning, and those thunderstorms are likely to last well into Wednesday. Highs of 28 and lows of 23. It's mostly sunny this afternoon, yes, in Beijing. Highs of 17 and lows of 8 and a chance of showers later on in the evening. Light rain showers in London as well at 16 degrees. It'll go to highs of 18 and come down to lows of 9. Cloudy conditions in Paris as the autumn has set in most parts of Western Europe. Highs of 19 and lows of 13. And we'll take a look now into New York, where it's still, yes, Monday night at 21 degrees. It'll rise to a high of 26 and come down to lows of 20.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation as we begin to look at the newspaper headlines, which we'll be looking at shortly. C.T. Muga will tell us today's proverb. African proverb.
Today's African proverb. All right.
Is it from the east, the west, the north, the south.
Why do you start with east and west?
Or
Why would we never
central.
start with the north and south?
I don't know, actually.
Why?
I don't know. East or west, north or south.
All right. When you hear me dilly-dallying like this is me trying to figure out where I wrote the proverb, and because I know where I wrote it, and then suddenly I find it has moved. It isn't quite where I put it.
It has moved to another page.
Yes. All right. This one is a Zimbabwean saying. A man who does not lie shall never marry.
Huh?
A man who does not lie, does not...
Oh, I don't know why I heard die.
No. Lie
Okay.
shall not marry. In fact, shall never marry.
So, in essence,
Lie of uongo or lie of kulala?
of course,
Uongo.
just you would come up with something like that.
Why?
The word that is related to the truth.
Okay. No liar gets married.
No?
So is this one now one of those unisex proverbs as well? Or is this only specific to men?
Oh, no. This is completely unisex, gender sensitive.
Okay.
You could
A
even
man
say
or woman
who does not...
does not
Let
lie.
me put it perhaps a little more colloquially. Who does not tell a lie is very unlikely to marry.
All right. And you have to be very careful. Say not tell a lie. Don't say cheat.
Okay. Now that one is the literary license that I will not comment on. I will leave it for
This is
people.
literally licensed to sugarcoat things.
That's why I read it as it was written, as it was given.
A man
A lie
who,
is a lie is a lie.
yeah, but cheating is different.
Oh, no lie, Joe.
A man who does not cheat.
Doesn't lie.
Okay, if you don't
Will
like
not get
if you don't
married.
like the proverb, I can tell you another one.
No, it's Eric who's trying to wiggle his way out of this one.
Well, if you think and consider for a single second, just an aspect of relationships at the point in time when people are trying to get to know each other. When everyone declares that they are at their best, being at your best often comprises a lie. Because what you present is not what you are all the time, and it's not possible for you to be that all the time. So, if we start from there, you might actually consider that perhaps we have been a little unkind when we've been talking about our politicians, when we call them names that are supposed to be descriptive of what they do. They are just living the part. Because politicians are in a relationship, a very polygamous relationship,
With the lie.
not only with the lie, with their constituents. So can you imagine the amount of lying that is required in such a setup?
I'm telling you. Okay.
Okay. So let's look at the headlines. Of course, through the show, we'll be focusing on this party that's beginning and the president opening the economy. So maybe we can look at other headlines then.
Yes.
India.
Yeah, sure.
Even the politics of DP Ruto missing.
Uhuru's big parade.
Why don't I start off by telling you the headlines on the Star? Githu gave consent to medical equipment leasing deal.
Oh, ouch. Okay.
Document seen by
It
the
fights
Star.
back.
Yes, it most certainly does fight back.
Documents seen by the Star.
By the Star show that former AG approved the entire transaction. Quote by the former AG, I hereby confirm that Principal Secretary MOH Kenya is duly authorized to execute documents for and on behalf of MOH. He is quoted as having said that.
Does it say which documents?
Well, the documents that gave the ministry the
Was that
authority.
the only correspondence from the AG regarding this matter?
It is not possible for that to have been the only correspondence, because if we go back into history, in the not too distant past, we presented or we read out or we looked at documents that was presented in our papers, indicating that indeed one of the things that the office of the Attorney General had done was to return the documents that were presented initially to them so that they could be amended appropriately.
Yep.
Remember?
Yep.
Yes. And this, what I've just read, is what was supposedly or is being indicated as having followed when all the things that had been considered a little contentious, a little not up to scratch,
Iffy.
had been sorted out, then authority was then granted. But why this makes headlines is because also in those previous articles, there seemed to have been a very, very strong denial, the word denial here, by the AG that he actually hadn't given the authority. Anyway, you want to say something?
I'm just hearing this drama of back and forth, and it's sometimes what we say, it's what you'd expect. All right, that this particular counter wasn't given immediately. The former AG said this before the Senate Investigating Committee. This particular counter wasn't given to the Senate committee. But now that a report is out, you see other, information coming in from somewhere, documents that are leaking,
Yes.
giving other details. And of course, the leaking documents are not coming as a complete set from document A to document Z. You're seeing document X.
It's like a selective part of that particular documentation, which will lend itself to a certain
Which will,
interpretation.
of course, yeah. So I'm just not sure what to read of all these things. It's that's why I started by saying it fights back.
It does.
There's gonna be some pushback. There's gonna be attempts to bring in counter narratives, but I think the counter narratives have their moment and have had their opportunity.
One of the things, though, that I think will also be apparent is that things that you may have done even in absolute honesty and with the confidence that this is what ought to be done because you had been advised by the people you work with, because the AG doesn't work alone, and you had appended your signature to or given the authority to, you later discover it wasn't quite what you were told. But because you had appended your name or your signature to it,
It's you.
you are not going to convince anyone that you did not know.
Yet.
Sure.
And yet, if you are to understand just what that office deals with on a daily basis, it can't be that this is the one thing they look at. No. The government, every time the government gets into a contract to borrow money or to do something,
The AG, Solicitor General are involved.
they have to be involved. And this happens on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So when you consider this is just part of something that happens, there are people who have to advise the AG and say, we have gone through it, this is what we feel, and this is what it is. So if they're going to drag the AG into this, let them drag everybody that chain.
Through,
Yes.
and through.
And let everybody explain their role in it. Yes, we know it has landed, and he is the boss, and it is him. Yes, the buck does stop with him, but let us also understand those who form that particular chain leading up to him.
And we're part of the process.
Precisely. Because even those documents, when they say they were drafted, he doesn't draft them.
No, he doesn't. Interestingly enough.
Working for government, my friend. La, la, la,
He
la, la,
assents to it when
He
it's done
doesn't-
and goes
he
through.
doesn't.
He doesn't write
yes.
it, but I mean later, pens his signature.
He does.
Yeah.
He does. He does. He
But
does.
everybody, there are very many people have involved in the process.
Yeah, and even those people who have interest have also infiltrated the system. So they'll ensure that whatever is coming for signature looks and feels like it's the right thing. Yet there's a clause somewhere.
It's like these documents that are brought to you to sign around 6 in the evening because
And they say, just sign
So
here.
someone
It's okay, I'll
knows
sort out
that
the
you
rest.
And
stay-
it's just,
stay late
it's
in the
17
office.
pages and you just have, somewhere in the middle.
And they said, don't worry, just sign. I'll do the rest.
say, we're just hoping
It's
you
a
could
dirty
just...
lie.
And you're thinking, I've been here the whole day. The whole day.
I was working on it. That's why I didn't bring it.
6. Said, no, leave it.
Let me read
No,
it
no, you know
overnight.
this thing has to go out tonight. No, leave it.
Things
come
will
back
happen. Let them
tomorrow.
happen. I'll sign tomorrow.
You see, now that's the thing about working for government. You cannot trust. In the private sector, you would receive something like that and you'd be like, so have you gone through it? What am I supposed to do? So what are we? You already know what is in the system.
You do.
What's coming to you. You already know
You
what's
do.
coming to you. And you know that these are the checks and balances that are here. So by the time I'm appending my signature, it's because you have gone through it.
And also
Maybe
in
there's
the
multiple
private,
signatures.
you're right, in the private sector, even functions are segmented. So you know,
Yeah,
so and so is the one who dealt with
this part.
So and so. So you can actually trace it back and say, okay, call the individual, you. This was your docket, isn't it?
Yeah.
Explain this to us,
Explain.
please. But in government, it all becomes morphed into one.
We did, the
signature.
office did it.
Yes.
It's the signature.
And as Eric likes saying, the can is kicked down. Sometimes the can is kicked upwards. Okay.
Very much so.
Like, remember the other day, there was this issue of the former principal secretary in that same ministry. That can was kicked up to the CS. The CS didn't mention names, But now it's apparent that the CS didn't even sign on behalf of the ministry. It's the principal secretary who signed on behalf of the ministry now. And yet the CS took flak for it.
Yeah, for sure. And only until it's being scrutinized and interrogated, then will you find out this kind of information. Otherwise, it's something that would have just, slipped through the cracks.
So this particular matter, this particular ghost isn't going to rest soon.
No.
No.
One would only hope that we get to the bottom, the real bottom of the matter, not a false bottom.
Eric, repeat that statement again.
We get to the real bottom of the matter.
As opposed to
a false bottom.
This thing, why I'm asking you to repeat it is because it could very well be a red herring. Let's focus on this because it's in the past.
Yeah.
So that
We
because
forget about the things that are currently going on.
well, yeah, because if we're talking about the MES, we're not talking about KEMSA.
KEMSA or current COVID.
Or any
COVID.
or COVID, or we're talking about JACMA. So we're talking about KEMSA. Anyway, my thoughts.
Let's take a break. 27 minutes to 7. Let's take a look at what's happening on the roads this Tuesday morning, and then we look at other headlines. Good morning. Our live stream is up. www.spicefm.co.ke and SpiceFM KE on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter.
Spice FM, Malindi.
Okay,
Traffic.
So it's Tuesday morning and the sun is trying to creep out, at least in Nairobi. Let's see what it looks like on the roads. Right around Pipeline this morning, as you're either trying to join, find your way to join then Mombasa Road, or go the other way and then get on to Outer Ring and then joining the Eastern Bypass. Okay, there seems to be a mess there, and it's moving very, very slowly this morning, bumper to bumper in all different kinds of directions. And people are waiting for some kind of order, and there's some police who are trotting over there at the moment, trying to see if they can sort that one out. Gong Road, Matatu Madness is back. It never seems to end, guys, and this is avoiding traffic. Tailed back all the way to the junction. Jogger Road to town. Very all right at the moment, not being affected by what's going on on Waiakiwe. Okay, the diversion heading towards Kikuyu is very slow this morning, and that's around Westlands. Getting into the CBD, though, through the roundabout is not too terrible. Okay, so where we see the trouble spots this morning seems to be around the Eastern Bypass. That should open up in a while. So if you've left earlier, in good stead. Let's see what happens in a short while. SpiceFM KE, that's how to reach us on Twitter. If you get stuck somewhere and find an alternate route that no one else has found, let us know.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
25 minutes to 7, we look at more headlines in the papers this morning. DP Ruto goes missing on Uhuru's big parade. Ruto fails to attend a high-profile state event despite being listed among key speakers days after increasing the tempo for the 2022 campaigns. So the DP knew that this event was taking place. He did not show up. Of course, those speaking there, none of them offered an apology on behalf of the deputy president. So questions were, is he keeping social distance? Does he think that, it's safer for him just to stay away? Raises so many questions, because you look at the political leaders who are present. Of course, looking at the ODM leader was present, the Amani National Congress leader, the head of the judiciary, of the legislature, then the deputy president, who is listed among the speakers, is a no-show. Tells you what?
He was unable to attend.
Something came up.
Something must have come up.
Something came up.
I mean, this is a man who has attended many functions. Even on the weekend, he was attending functions. So it isn't that he suddenly developed the inability to attend functions. So the only reason is there must be a very good reason why he didn't attend this particular function.
Hey, okay. So that's it.
Well, if one wants to read, to find a cause for reading into it, one could. And one may even have substance if you're looking at some of the utterances that one reads, attributed to people who are supposedly allied to the Deputy President. And if you look at the recent past, and if you look at the prominence that the former Prime Minister has in matters of government, then you could argue that perhaps he had reason not to attend. Now, I'm not going to even bother or even try to speculate what those reasons are. What I do know is that he didn't attend, and he must have very good reasons why he didn't attend. Yes. I will start and begin there.
Bas.
Yes.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. That's where we'll end.
But let me add this. In the days to come, I am certain that there'll be information that will make itself available to us, and we'll be able to understand the situation with greater clarity.
Let's hope so, because we're also seeing that the DP's allies are really advocating for the dissolution of Parliament. They say, just like we heard from Kipchumba Murkomen yesterday, dissolve Parliament now so that people can go and elect, and the new Parliament will come in and it will have fresh impetus and fresh energy and zeal and verve to finally get this matter across the line.
Let's hope that they're not speaking too soon, because when we had the issue of the 2007 cases of violence, we had an option to either try the cases here in Kenya or take the matter to The Hague.
Yep.
And the understanding, I think, at that particular point in time was that anything that would go to The Hague would take a long time before it was actually operationalized. That wasn't true, as was found out. People made statements. Don't be vague. Let's go to The Hague.
Yep.
Many of them, at that particular point in time, were said to be supporters of now the Deputy President, Dr. Ruto. I think those words were eaten fairly quickly. Yeah, because that Hague matter became a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yep.
Humble pie was.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this one of let people.
Let's go to an election.
One yes,
Very
we may have the same scenario playing again. People are speaking and believing that what they're saying is appropriate, and then in the not too distant future, events
It comes to bite them.
Yes, exactly.
Maybe they just want to take that risk, because if going by the story on the Nation, the DP's allies, they are planning to ditch Jubilee in case the House is dissolved. This is like they're saying this is our final freedom moment where we can openly go and campaign in other platforms and speak on other platforms without really feeling that we are tied to this Jubilee that is no longer our favorite party.
If we speculate on that line of thinking, then you could argue that some of the barbs that they have thrown directly at the president were based on the understanding that come 2022, the president will no longer be.
He'll leave the party to them.
Yes, he won't be there. So what the heck? We can say what we see fit. And then Justice Maraga hands over to the president a tool which, if used badly, could be a tool of imperialism. The very imperialism that has been spoken about, and the word imperialism that has been attached to the president by certain citizens of this particular country and groupings, suddenly becomes a reality. And you realize, hiya, gosh, you mean?
It's possible.
Yep. So
it's actually possible.
So that discussion of 2022 changes, because there's no 2022. There may be no 2022. It may be now.
It may be 2021.
Yes. The vagaries of politics are such that one ought to be very, very cautious. Very, very cautious about the things that one says. And sometimes it's even easier to simply just say nothing.
Or maybe just take advantage. When you see an opportunity and you think that this is an opportunity that could work for you, then take advantage. Because probably that's what they're seeing. If we go into an election right now, maybe they feel that they have the people, they've got good traction on the ground. And then it gives them a proper, perfect launchpad for the 2022 presidential election. When you have new, fresh MPs, I mean, you've gone around the country. Just look at what 2005 did to the ODM brigade in 2007, or for the ODM brigade. Because of that referendum, they had good momentum going into 2007.
They did.
So the same thing. If we went into a campaign, proper official campaign mode and season now, around the country, because you're campaigning for all those seats, 290 plus 47 plus 47, then you are basically having a national campaign. And then you can say that this is informally the DP is launching his 2022 campaign using these people that he thinks that he's able now to grab the hustler nation, come in with a number of MPs, and then come 2020, they'll be able to know what's our actual strength.
Then there's the tricky thing of changing parties, okay? Because with our politics, we have seen how that has worked out.
Yep.
We've seen giants, people who are considered to be unassailable in their parts of the country, simply because of a party affiliation. Not anything they have done, party affiliation at that particular point in time. And that may have happened within the space of a year, sometimes even 6 months. Suddenly, whatever you thought were the grounds for which your popularity were taken for granted and guaranteed vanish into smoke, literally. And suddenly you don't have a leg to stand on. Eric, what I'm saying is, I think these are politicians, and they do know what they're doing. I am merely saying this. Given our politics, a little extra caution would be absolutely necessary. No one saw this coming in.
Yep.
No one.
So no one knows what's coming in.
What's coming
next
after this?
Yes,
Exactly.
You don't. You don't.
Okay, well, speaking of things that you didn't know would happen, 10 million shillings bail saves Waluke Sirisia seat. The High Court has saved Sirisia MP John Waluke from losing his seat after being imprisoned for graft involving 297 million shillings in Shady May's dealings with the National Cereals and Produce Board. Justice John Onyego yesterday released the MP on a cash bail of 10 million shillings or a bond of 20 million, pending hearing and determination of an appeal against the lower court's judgment that sent him to prison for 34 years. The retired military major, who was imprisoned on June 22nd by the Anti-Corruption Court, was at risk of losing his seat in the National Assembly should he have missed 8 consecutive sittings. While urging court to grant Mr. Waluke bail pending appeal, lawyer Elisha Ngoya said though the MP cannot lose the parliamentary seat on account of conviction, the seat was in danger of being declared vacant for his failure to attend sessions. So many were asking, how then do you get bail when he had already received sentencing? Now the bail application is made on the appeal. And now they're looking at appeal essentially as a fresh quote-unquote case.
Yeah.
So on that, bail then can be applied for, and in this case was granted.
Until he exhausts all avenues of appeal, he can still play that game.
Yep. That's what it is right now. Being very smart and looking at the small cracks that you can actually slip
Being
through.
smart after the event.
Right. I mean, the only way for him to get something like this then was via appeal. Sentencing had already been given. He had tried to raise some money to pay the fine. It did not come through. So the only other option was to appeal it. And since the appeal had then gone to a higher court, it was seen as a fresh case upon which application for bail could be made.
But it is a fresh case.
It is.
But as matters stand, the judgment and conviction of the lower court still stands
It does.
until that is vacated by the Court of Appeal.
Exactly.
So he's still a fraudster.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's still, the judgment still holds, right? But on the new case, you can be out on bail until that appeal either
as you
is
wait for.
given or denied.
But you know, this when you consider that it is possible for someone to have been jailed or found guilty, erroneously, then this case becomes an interesting, or sets in my mind, it points to something interesting within our law. That it is possible for you to get breathing space so that the reality of your situation can be considered by more than just one individual.
True. I mean, look at what happened with the case of the two gentlemen who had been convicted over the rape of this young woman, and then they were released for a fresh case to begin. Why? Because a witness list was not complete. Something that would have taken
A witness
you,
had not signed.
had not signed
statement.
completion in terms of
That was
signing.
it. As in
a
just
detail.
that.
That's it.
Do you imagine the kind of work that you would have to go combing through, fine-tooth comb, to then be able to find, hold on a minute, here's something that we can use. And because of that, then they're out. It doesn't change the fact that this woman was raped by these two gentlemen.
But have you considered the number of times?
Maybe
we've
it
had-
does.
Yes, it does.
Maybe it does.
The number of times we've had cases where the DCI has a case, the DPP's office says it is okay. Goes the court, they say, guys, come here. Stop joking.
Stop wasting my
Stop
time.
wasting my time. What exactly do you want me to do?
This is
with
where
thing?
you go wrong.
Get your things together
Get your
before
things
you come
together.
back before
Yes.
me.
Yes.
14 minutes to 7. Let's take another break. We'll be back shortly looking at other headlines. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. And when you come back, read that comment from Simon Villa on Facebook. You can do it now, maybe. Does it?
Tell Ndu that in my mother tongue, a she added to her name becomes Shindu, which means something. And the way she is something worthwhile.
All right.
Message received, Simon Villa.
It is a lovely.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
10 minutes to 7. You know, the Nation has been running some stories on page 2 where they are encouraging young writers to contribute to the Nation, so on a daily basis. As young as Paul Murage, who is 18, a student at Japini Boys High School in Nyandarua County. And so they're saying, are you aged between 10 and 20 and would like to be Nation's young reporter? So you email your story to them, all right? So this story by young Paul Murage, 18 years old, says, there's no water in Banita, but who will listen to our cry for help? So Master Murage is talking about this place called Banita in Nakuru County. And he says it is a semi-arid area, which is hosts one of the largest livestock markets in the country. Recently, the market held a goat auction where farmers sold more than 500 goats. Now, here's the issue about this area. Because of the way the climate is, sisal does very well in Bonita. And they have been growing sisal for very many years. It's sold in Nakuru and other parts of the country. But recently, the water that they have been using, which comes from River Malewa for irrigation, has come into issues because some few rich people, according to Paul Murage, who lived in Bonita, formed groups to build humongous concrete water tanks, and the water that was freely available to everyone was diverted to certain areas. Unfortunately, my family lives in the areas that ended up with little or no water. Due to the water taken to other people, large tracts of land were rendered useless. Small-scale farmers are no longer able to produce vegetables that they used to, and also sisal, which ordinarily grows in areas with water scarcity, does not even grow here because it's not about water scarcity now. It's become completely barren and dry. So this is an appeal to the Water Management Authority, the Water Resources Authority, and the county government of Nakuru to address the plight of the people of Bonita.
Okay.
I read it and I thought it was a beautiful piece by the gentleman. Good piece of activism.
So this this appeal, this competition or that forum that Nation has offered, how long has it been on?
Couple of months now, I think. I've been seeing it every day. It's there.
And when does it
on
end?
the second? It's not a competition.
Yeah, I don't think
It's just a platform.
It will end. It's a platform that they're giving to
Encouraging journalism.
younger minds to write,
Excellent.
which I think is a good thing.
It's lovely. It's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
Interesting story.
So, I know we're going to talk about the opening of the economy and looking at schools and such. So let's just look at a little bit here, where a lot of teachers then who reported to school yesterday seem to be in a problem. So it says that schools in a fine mess as teachers return to dusty, dirty classrooms. Yesterday was the 28th of September, and before, of course, all the announcements were made by the president yesterday. The Ministry of Health and the what are these fellows called? Teacher Service Commission had told teachers to come back on the 28th, right? Now, the mess that has defined public schools over the last 6 months welcomed back teachers yesterday as support staff who usually keep the institutions tidy and habitable stayed away, having gone without pay for so long. The teaching staff were greeted by overgrown bushes, facilities in disrepair, dirty and dusty classrooms, and gullies running through playing fields owing to failure by the government to release funds for maintenance during the prolonged closure. Visits to various schools revealed only a few support staff, mostly guards, are still working, but there were near to 100% turnout but there was a near to 100% turnout by tutors. They, however, went straight to preparing their teaching materials in readiness to receive learners as directed by the TSC, which now is not going to happen, and the support staff stayed away. So it would be, if you're now going to work backwards, if things had actually come out the way they were expecting, you then want to ask the question, would enough time then have been given to get these institutions in readiness?
How were they
whereas
expected?
we were told that everybody was ready to go.
I have this feeling that all along, the announcement from the president was going to be this. All along. It's not saying that we are ready. It's saying until we are ready, and then the education CS will announce the timetable.
So why were they talking about opening in October then?
Who did?
CS.
Who did? We are still not yet in October. It's still possible for the CS to announce in 2 weeks' time that we are opening in end of October.
That is
The
true.
president has not said do not open this year. The president has said
he said figure out the how and then
ensure
we can
that we
the
are
when.
completely safe and all, and then we can discuss the when. Now, if you look at what is happening, the TSC asked teachers to report back to school yesterday. So between yesterday and a couple of days from now, they'll be figuring out the how. So how are you going to ensure there is physical distancing? How are you going to have, where are you going to have the hand washing stations?
I think that we need
all
to
those
also take
things.
into consideration that apart from the CS, all the stakeholders kept telling us, and it was drumming in our ear, we are ready. we are ready, we are ready, we're ready. We've done all we need to do to make sure that we can go back to school. Clearly, that was not the case.
And we
It
asked
seemed-
the
asked
question, okay,
over and over
this
and over again.
readiness,
What
what
does
does
it
it
look
What does
like?
it entail?
Yeah.
Yes,
What does it look like? Have you put up ablution centers? Have you running water? Have you made sure that you can ensure social distancing within classrooms? What was the answer? We are ready.
And when we had callers in, there's one particular caller I remember
Mm-hmm.
who was himself a teacher.
Yes.
Said, let me talk about where I teach. We do not have running water.
Voila.
And this area that I work in does. There are many schools. My school, the school I work in, is not the only school.
Yep.
There are other schools who have a similar predicament.
Yep.
Okay, have those matters been sorted out?
Exactly. And so even when the ministry would be saying that we are still consulting and we are hearing from this, that, the other thing, you had the stakeholders who were then vested in this saying, we are ready.
Those are
And
the
it was
ones
not
who've
the
been
case.
pushing this narrative. Remember, I've been
exactly.
saying,
They're the ones
if
who've
you
been
look at the
pushing this.
newspapers, there has been this whole narrative of schools could reopen, and it's always, in quotes and quotes, right? Never a statement of fact coming from the Ministry of Education saying this is what is going to happen. What we know is that the Ministry of Education has said, let's sit, we are going to review, we shall announce, we shall advise the president shall make the declaration.
We know that it was representatives from the Teacher Service Commission, as well as this other committee, the ad hoc committee that had been put together, who were then making the recommendations for the opening of school October. And now that was taken as gospel truth and was put out there and let people understand that schools are actually opening come the 5th of October, and then come the 19th, it would be phased out. It was already prescribed, it was done, it was put out there. And that is what people gobbled up and believed.
Yeah, because of what was being reported, not because of a report that was presented that actually said open on this date.
Oh, I agree 100%. I have always said, never once had the ministry said schools are going to open. I had said that the ministry needed to be very clear about what it is. It's a report. Are they recommendations? What is it? And I've always said that they needed to be very clear, and that was ceasing. So, because we already know what the habit is going to be. You put a bit of information out there, guess what? Parents, students, people who are waiting, that's what they're going to hear, and that's what they're going to take and run with.
But the reaction from the parents, I think, if we believe the brain trust is still operational, then, and we believe that other agencies of the government
Intelligence is working.
that gather information, I'm sure the president was advised and told
Don't even try this
that
one.
parents
powder
don't-
keg.
Yes, and remember, teachers also comprise that body of individuals who are also parents.
Exactly.
So they would know.
They would know. I'm sure that the advice overall, all of this that we were hearing back and forth was, this is not water that you want to wade into. Yeah, so be very careful.
Be careful what you wish for. Keep it right here. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. As we come to the top of the hour, we'll be on KTN Home for the next 2 hours, 7 to 9. And we'll also be looking at yesterday's, not devolution, what was it? Conference? COVID-19 conference. We'll speak to one of the moderators, Dr. Mercy Korir of KTN, and we'll be seeking to understand the country's preparedness to deal with COVID-19 going forward, and also maybe trying to glimpse into what informed yesterday's decisions. Good morning. It's 7 o'clock.
Okay, so we got some traffic coming out of Mombasa Road this morning, all the way from Lolongo as normal and heading then towards Cabanas. This is what we expect to see. It shouldn't be too crazy today like what we saw yesterday, and hopefully by the time we get out of traffic hour, you would not have left too much in terms of blood, sweat and tears on Mombasa Road this morning, but we'll have to wait and see. Coming from the Nyayo Stadium roundabout and then heading towards the CBD and then out towards Westlands, we have a bit of a hold-up, bumper-to-bumper situation, but it shouldn't be too bad this morning. All right, let's take a look at Thika Road, getting through to the Pangani underpass, as then you pass Allsops Pass Survey, in whichever direction you're coming. It should be all right. It's moving slowly, but it's moving all the same, which is a good thing. Then Kiambu Road, as usual, the mishmash that we see there, slowly moving, snaking along as you then try to join the highway. It shouldn't be too bad for too long. All right, so it seems to be moving quite well in different parts of the city. In Gong Road, we have a bit of traffic there, so be careful. The roads are still closed in industrial area. That's Likoni and Lunga Lunga. But the alternate ones that you can use, a little bit longer, but you should find your way out with no problems. All right, getting to the CBD from Jogo Road as well will not be too painful either. Okay? Spice FM KE. That's how you can get in touch just in case you get clogged up somewhere. We can find an alternate route. or at the very least, keep you company.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This
2.5
is
minutes
the
after 7.
Situation
This
Room,
is Kenya's
the
biggest
only way to
conversation,
start.
broadcasting on Spice FM. Nairobi 94.4. If you're in Eldoret, you're 96.7, or Nakuru 96.0. Go to Kisumu and the environs 102.5. Go to Malindi and Kilifi 97.7. Nyeri and Mount Kenya region 90.9. And where haven't I said? I've said everywhere. Nakuru and the environs 96.0. We're also live on KTN Home, and I'd like to say a very good morning to the audience on KTN Home, joining us from now until 9 o'clock. And also streaming online, Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. CT Muga. As we begin this hour, please tell us today's proverb.
A person who does not lie, shall never marry. It's almost like saying, if you don't want to marry, keep telling the truth.
Tell the truth and you'll never get anybody who likes you. People hate the truth.
Well, we'll look at it perhaps a little closer and in greater details at the end of the show.
Okay. So a man who does not lie will never marry.
Shall.
Is shall here
Shall or
a
must?
must, or is shall may, or
Will not. Shall here is a will not.
will not?
You just keep telling the truth and see how far you go with it.
Definitive.
When it relates to matters of marriage.
Yeah. Okay. So the president yesterday hosted the COVID-19 conference at the KICC. Various speakers from various arms of government and other stakeholders came together to discuss the country's work in the fight against COVID-19 since earlier in the year and what has been achieved so far, what has worked, what has not worked. There were various speakers who were saying, look, let's look at the positives. There are very many positives that we've seen coming out of this fight against COVID-19, what COVID-19 has taught us as Kenyans. And also looking at the final address by the president, who says, well, some of the measures that we took immediately and how quick we were to take those measures is what has led us to where we are right now, where we are still not out of the woods yet. In fact, we are at a dangerous point where if we just slacken, then we could fall back. But we are seeing that together we have gotten to a point we can resume some of our old normal, but in a new way. For example, reopening of the bars, increasing the number of people who can now attend church service and other gatherings, looking at the number of people who can now also attend funerals and looking at the protocols for funerals and all that, and how then we live our lives as a society, and saying, but we must always remain vigilant and careful. Is this largely what you expected to hear from the president yesterday, CT?
Actually, yes. It is. It is because it was, if I recall, what we've been discussing in the show has been a cautious approach to this matter of opening up the economy. Well, but with an emphasis that the issue of opening up schools was perhaps a little premature because we were actually not ready to open the schools as had been suggested, given all the things that needed to be in place before the safety of the children could be guaranteed. But as for the other things, yes, It is cautious. It is gradual. Give curfew 2 hours more. It's reasonable. Open up bars. Now, again, the media has been full of just the number of job fatalities that have occurred as a result of COVID. People who are in that industry, how they have actually suffered. Now, when you hear that the number of people who are allowed to probably congregate has increased, it means that even people who are allowed to perhaps the number that the hospitality industry can accommodate will also increase. Now, it is, in my mind, a positive change. And it is in a positive approach. Yes, it is. It is. There's one clause that I particularly loved, and I'm paraphrasing it, where he says, the president said, you know something, if we look and we see that things aren't going as we had thought, we will simply shut down again. That's me paraphrasing. Yes. We will shut down. So it isn't as though what we have allowed is supposed to just carry on ad infinitum. There's a provision that we are adding onto it, a little proviso. Should this happen, then we'll see. That, to me, is a responsible statement of saying we are not going to stop watching and looking and determining what is the best way forward. Yes.
I do think that it was consolidated in terms of effort to make sure they came at these decisions that they did. I also look at an element of listening to what the heartbeat of the country is at the moment. And I'd like to look at that from the point that a lot of people were really affected when it came to the economic effects of COVID. Opening up to allow a lot of people to get back to work. I'm not going to look at it from an entertainment purely point of view, where restaurants and bars serving up alcoholic beverages, and that's what people are looking forward to. But the point that people were able to then get back to work. I mean, we spoke to a chef yesterday, and what did he say? Look, if he opens up today on Monday, I can start earning again, you know, as immediate as that. And if these things are allowed, then we can get back to at least putting some dignity, not just back into our hands, putting food on the table. And that was then absolutely necessary for that to see happen. Taking all of that into consideration while not throwing caution to the wind, to understand that this is still something that could come. And also just looking at what he did say, at the very beginning, he said, look, we can look at and say that certain milestones we have been able to reach, but that doesn't mean that because we seem to have achieved some kind of victory that we can then now throw up our hands in rejoicing and forget there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And I think that was one of the overarching messages that came out. And then looking from the medical point of view, there's still danger that's lurking. There's still danger that's lying there. So even as, you know, things are loosened a little bit, we still need to make sure that we take care.
The danger didn't actually lessen.
It's still there.
Still there. What lessens it is what we do, the precautionary measures that we take. That's what lessens it. Yes.
I see this, and I'm sitting there joining everybody else who's celebrating. But at the back of my mind, I'm asking myself: are we where we are because of what the government and the people of Kenya did, or are we where we are because some mighty power has just landed us where we are? Look, so the president, for example, says. The COVID-19 positivity rate has fallen from 13% in June, 7% in August, and is now at 4.4% in September. That positivity rate dropping from 13% in June to 7% in August to 4.4% in September. Is it as a result of efforts that have been taken by the government, by the people, that you can then say that, you know what was happening in June, something was put in place, it reduced the positivity rate to 7%, and those measures continued, and they have therefore dropped the positivity rate to 4.4% in September. What is that?
Done?
What is that magic?
I don't see that magic, to be honest. And I think I said it, and so maybe I bored you guys sometimes, but I don't think you cannot compare the amount of testing that was being done 3 months ago to what is being done now. You can't. I mean, there's a huge difference there. For you to then be able to say this is what the footprint looks like, more testing needed to have been done. And I say that I think there's quite a number of people who are walking around in the population who are COVID positive, but by virtue of the fact that they've not been tested, there's no way for you to know. So then for you to say that, we've dropped a certain number of percentage points, it's okay. However, I don't see this magic wand that has been waved to say this exactly is what has been done. You told us, Eric, people are walking around with, what do we say, head masks and chin masks?
Chin masks,
People are
forehead
not,
masks.
People were all over the place over the weekend. Others were arrested, I don't know, doing what. Everybody was out anyway. So is it something, or maybe the intervention of a higher power that you talk about so that people are actually not falling off the face of the earth and dying, right? But have there been particular interventions that have been made? Have you been able to find lower numbers because you're just not testing?
Because you're not testing.
No, but ask yourself the simple question. If you look at the figures, out of every 100,000, say, if you look at the America, not the Americas, America, USA, 395 per 100,000. Europe, 243 per 100,000. Africa, 16
per 100,000.
100,000.
Yes, cumulatively.
Continent.
16. So, when you're talking figures and you're asking how it is, the prevalence is what it is, then what really are you basing this particular statement on when you say, of course, the numbers are down?
Of course.
But then the other indicators, aside from testing, that we must look at. Do we have a situation where our hospitals are reporting that they're being overrun by cases?
Yeah.
We don't hear it. Are the facilities that we set in place being overrun by people? No.
We don't hear
so,
it.
It may be true. There may be indication that indeed
It's been managed.
yes.
But was
The
there ever a
positivity-
case where the hospitals in Kenya were run over?
There was a time when
There was
they were,
time when
they
there was
were busy.
questions like, okay, they were busy.
Yes, they were busy, and there were signs that they might get busy to the point where they are really chock-a-block being busy
Unable to.
to manage.
To
yes.
manage.
Yes.
Let's bring in Dr. Mercy Korir, KTN's medical journalist. Good morning, Mercy. Yes, now you're on air now. Good morning, Mercy.
Good morning, Eric. Good morning, City. Good morning, Ndu.
Good morning, Mercy.
Yes.
So, Mercy, you attended this conference yesterday. In fact,
Yes,
you
I did.
moderated some of the sessions
Yes. On the health response.
on the health response. Now, from where you sit, having covered the response to COVID-19 from the very beginning up to now, how would you answer that question? I'm sitting here and we are just asking ourselves, this positivity rate that's dropping, is it because our health system and our government efforts have actually brought it down, and of course also the citizens have brought it down, or is it because of something that we really can't explain?
Okay. All right. So for me, the honest answer is I don't know what exactly our positivity rate is. Because for you to actually have a proper indication of the positivity rate that gives a true picture of the country, you need to have more testing done. So it means I think you need to have 1 in 1,000 people tested so that you're able to, be able to say out of, let's say, 5 million Nairobians, we have tested 5,000 people. And out of these 5,000 people in Nairobi, so many have the disease, and so this is our positivity rate. Then you would be more confident to say this is a positivity rate. But if we see where we are now, we are not testing as much. Our testing is not even representative of the population, because now our testing is limited to people who are symptomatic, who are showing up in hospital, and people who need testing for other reasons, especially traveling. So if you look at the sample size of who you're testing, then your positivity rate that is there is not really representative of what is actually happening on the ground. And it's like what you guys have been saying. Like, there could be so many people who have COVID, but we don't know. Because look at our statistics. 93% of Kenyans who had the infection have not had any symptoms.
Yes.
So the three of you there could have as well gotten COVID, gotten over it, and life continued. So we don't really know the true prevalence of the disease in the country because of the fact that people are asymptomatic. And then two, because we are not testing as much, they're not able to pick out everyone. And granted, we cannot test as much as you would have wanted to, because it would be a waste of resources. Like initially, when now we were quote unquote doing mass testing, going to
various hotspots.
Exactly, and just testing everyone. That was not really useful because you needed to have targeted testing because of the meager resources that we have. That said, now going by the statistics that are there, the analysis that now our positivity rate is less than the 5% that is recommended by WHO, we have actually come down. Analyzing just that on paper, it's a mix of several issues. It's not that the government did only or the people did only. It's everyone who did their part. That masks were mandatory while in public, and at some point, everyone was keen on wearing masks. Physical distancing was encouraged. So from our matatus to when people are in lifts, people are observing physical distance. When people are told only 15 people can attend funerals, weddings, all of those things, when they are put in place, people followed and adhered to them. We closed churches and mosques and other places of religious worship. We banned other events, entertainment joints. So all of those things, government did their part, then Wananchi did their part of following. So all of that was a concerted effort.
Did it really?
So as manage, our numbers.
I'm thinking about this practically, Dr. Mercy. If you look at the behavior, let's leave alone the government. So the government said, wear face masks. The government said, and even put it in law and regulation that you must wear face masks. You need to observe physical distancing. All business premises had to ensure this. Public transport had to ensure this. The people themselves, if you look at the behavior of the people in June, the behavior of the same people in July, in August, in September, for it to be dropping, you'll be saying that the people are actually observing those measures more strictly. I want to argue that it's actually the opposite. That the behavior of the people now in September, when we are at 4.4%, is actually worse than when we were at 13%.
That's why my statement was, at some point, people were observing all of those things, and it worked. And my own theory, this is not necessarily what is happening. My own theory is that, one, by the time this disease was getting here, the virus was not as lethal as we expected.
Yeah.
And then two, we still don't know why that the disease has not ravaged Africa the way it did. And Dr. Outage yesterday was saying, it could be a population. Maybe there's something about how we eat, what we do. Considering Africa, most of the time we are out open places. Even in our houses, we do not have AC. We don't have limited, ventilation.
Yeah.
So all of those things could have played a part. But my own personal theory is that considering how widespread community transmission was at some point, it's possible that many people got infected because our population was asymptomatic for a better part of the time. It is still asymptomatic, 93%. It means that out of every 10 people that got COVID, only one person showed symptoms. The rest really didn't have anything. They probably did not even know that they had contracted COVID.
Yeah.
So you get the virus, you get over it, you develop immunity, and so even right now, if the virus is still around, people have developed sufficient immunity not to contract the virus again. Though there have been a report of a reinfection, but that was just one incident. So that is my own personal theory that we could have gotten this disease when it was at peak in week 27 in around July.
Right.
Because week 26, 27, 28, that was the peak according to the Ministry of Health graph. So it probably the disease around that time. Now we have immunity.
Okay.
So that
now if
could explain what we are seeing now.
So now with the theories that are coming out in terms of explanation as to why we don't have these mass infections in Africa, number one, then we're also looking and saying that the behavior in terms of protection, wearing of masks, etc., and then also saying that the numbers have dropped, then can't we then say that indeed it has been managed properly in this country? In other countries, many have asked, to give the example of Tanzania, for example, you don't hear stories of people having dropped off, the face of the earth, dying from COVID. So isn't it then possible to say the numbers have dropped, whether you're testing with mass numbers or not, the numbers have actually dropped, and then it's okay to go ahead with, the measures that we have seen?
No, I agree with you, and I think also our numbers will continue dropping. And this is why we are moving, or rather we are going into a warmer, let me call it warmer season. And we know that the coronavirus thrives in cooler temperatures. The West is going towards winter, starting November, December. Whereas guys are going towards a warmer time. So we'll probably not see any more numbers. Even if they're there, it's going to be just the few cases that we are still reporting, which for me is a good thing for Africa and a good thing for Kenya. The other thing is that we, as African countries, we are the ones who got the disease last. And what I said earlier is that I think the disease followed the economic development pattern. When you look at the East to Europe to Americas, and finally it landed in Africa. By the time it was getting to us, we had seen what was happening. We were able to institute some of these measures quite early, restricting flights up to banning them. We were able to institute containment measures, isolation, quarantine, the hand washing. We were able to do all of those things early on, closing schools. We did them early. We didn't do them well. Obviously, it had many, many issues. But at least we did not wait for things to really get so bad for us to do that. What all of those things did was not to prevent the infection, but to spread out the days of the infection. And that's why you guys were discussing about our hospitals were not overwhelmed. They got busy. There's a time they got very many patients, and there's a time they were really getting very many sick patients. But they did not get to a point where now people are out in the corridors of the hospitals, or they are stranded the way we saw in the West. Because what we have done is sort of spread out how the infections would affect us. So we didn't flatten the curve. We just prolonged how the infections were affecting us to give us time to respond. Obviously, all of those things also had their own challenges.
Mercy, let me ask you this question. Now, this is it is something that isn't discussed often enough, but I want your thoughts on it. The African immune system and the supposed robustness of it and its contribution to the limited proliferation of the COVID on this continent. What say you?
So this is very pedestrian. It's not based on any science. But looking at the African population, just from what we eat, we are more likely to be eating organic food. I mean, during COVID, people from the village were sending food stuff from, this long distance buses like Easy Coach. It was busy because people were sending in food stuff from the village to people in Nairobi.
Yep.
So if you look at how we eat, much as there is urbanization, we have all our fast foods around, we are still very basic with what we eat compared to people in the West. Our food is organic. We do not have as many GMO food as the West. So you find that our immunity is from even before COVID has been doing fairly okay. We have, and I usually like giving this example, we have very many communicable diseases, especially cholera. amoeba, and all of these things. They usually, in any one time in a hospital, you see somebody with one of those infectious diseases. So they are always here. But you never hear mass deaths because, there's been
an outbreak of cholera.
An outbreak of okay. Yes, okay, cholera, when it was an outbreak, it kills people, many.
Yes, it does.
But there's not been like an alarming something out of the norm, So I think by the time we were getting into COVID, our bodies already are used to the diets we have. Our immunity is already good enough. It gave us some fighting chance. The other one is that our population, actually the young population works for us. So on average between 20 and 30 years. These are people who are at their best. Yeah. They are energetic. They are unlikely to have other pre-existing conditions like diabetes, hypertension. They are unlikely because those diseases tend to come towards 50, 60, 70 years of age. So these people are likely to be healthy, and that is the bulk of our population. So it is a mix of all of these things that I think works in favor of Kenya, works in favor of many African countries. And then now add on to those other containment measures, which we tried to institute pretty early with their failures, yes, but at least it brought us something. And even when you come down to Kenya itself, Nairobi, for example, is very different from the villages. I don't know if anyone of you has managed to go out of Nairobi, but you find that people outside Nairobi actually are going about their lives. If you go with a mask to my village, then people actually wonder why you are wearing a mask.
They know you come from the city.
Where there's corona, but in the village there's none. And if you look at what happens in the village, people don't stay in the house. When the sun is up, you're actually out, and you're out the whole day until later when you now come, the sun is gone down, now you need to go and sleep.
But so we need to take a break now. We need to take a break now and then continue this conversation. At 28 minutes past 7, we're speaking with Dr. Mercy Korir, KTN's medical journalist, right here on Spice FM. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room, which is also live on KTN Home and live online on Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We want to take a look at what's happening on the roads and also look at the weather. And then we'll be back having this conversation. What is it that has led us to get where we are now? Is it containment measures by the government? Is it the efforts taken by the government and the citizens? Or is it a combination of all those plus other factors that have favored Africa as a whole? Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. The weather with Spice FM.
Okay, the sun's peeking through the clouds, CT. It's 17 degrees and it's partly cloudy. Highs of 27. Lows of 15 in Nairobi today. And in Nyeri, it's partly cloudy at 15, going to highs of 25. Nakuru could experience some showers later, but we're going to have to wait and see. Highs of 25 and lows of 13. It's mostly sunny at the moment, however. It's partly cloudy in Eldoret at 13 degrees, going to highs of 23 and lows of 12. Partly cloudy conditions in Kisumu at the moment and a chance of showers later, going to highs of 28. It's going to be 26 degrees the high in Kakamega today and chance of showers later in the day with lows of 16. Mombasa is mostly cloudy at 25, going to highs of 29 and chances of showers here as well. It's mostly cloudy. Yes, it is mostly cloudy in Malindi, highs of 28 and lows of 24. And cloud cover in Kampala as well at 19 degrees, going to highs of 26 and a chance of showers later. Mostly cloudy conditions in Dar es Salaam. We'll probably look for that usual morning Dar es Salaam fog, but we'll see. Going to highs of 31 and lows of 22 through the day. Joburg is dropping a little bit in temperature. It's now at 8 degrees, mostly sunny, however, and those sunny conditions will last through the day, going to highs of 24 and lows of 7. And finally, for now, Lagos continues to experience thunderstorms this morning, right in the middle of the rainy season. Highs of 28 and lows of 23.
.9 Spice FM, Mombasa.
The big question of the day is what exactly is going on Thika Road. There seems to be a jam-packed situation, as I like to say. It's all jam and no butter this morning. Things are not moving smoothly, not as fast as we would like to see. So we're going to keep an eye on that for now. Right around the Pangani underpass, it's not moving as we'd like. Then getting towards the Globe Cinema overpass, you can, however, use Forest Road. It'll take you a longer route to get into the CBD, but you'll get there without too much of a headache. So there's a little bit of a clog up right around the City Stadium roundabout as you head towards the CBD via Jogger Road. Industrial area roads in some cases still continue to be closed because of the construction that's taking place there. So this one you're going to have to sit it out, folks. The eastern bypass is now clear, as is the southern. So no problems getting to and from Mombasa Road and Thika Road if you're going to use the longer route. Okay? Okay. Not too bad. Spice FM KE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. Just in case you get into a sticky situation, we might be able to offer an alternative.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
All right.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room on Spice FM, on KTN Home Online. Joining us on the line is Standard Group's Group Editor for Health and Science, Dr. Mercy Korir, and we are looking at the announcement made by the President yesterday following the COVID-19 conference. Uhuru reopens the economy, he warned against laxity, and we're looking at how the country has basically handled COVID-19 since the announcement of the first case, in fact, before the announcement of the first case for COVID-19, the establishment of the National Emergency Response Committee, the establishment of the task force, all the measures that were taken before that, all the measures that have been taken, during this period of COVID-19, and up to getting to a point where we are saying that the positivity rate for COVID-19 in the month of September is at 4.4%. And because we've hit that level where the WHO has advised, once you hit a level below 5%, then you can start looking at easing of some of these containment measures, then we are already doing very well. And the conversation that we're having is regarding this now, where we are at, the measures that we have taken, the vigilance that we need to deploy and still employ as a country. I am pushing, not pushing, I'm putting out an argument this morning that we as a country, as a government and as a people may be creating some false narrative of ourselves and saying that, you know what, because of the measures that we took in place, because of these measures that we've taken, we have been able to bring our positivity rate down. We've been able to address the impact of COVID-19. We are now at a positivity rate of 4.4%, dropping down from 13% just 3 months ago. That is not mean feat. And we are patting ourselves in the back and saying that this is the work of our government and our hands. And I'm saying absolute nonsense.
You've forgotten the narrative that it may be the work of the Almighty.
That's actually my narrative.
Okay, spiritual intervention.
Oh, yes.
But Dr. because we often say that, and you've said on several occasions that decisions must be fueled by information, and the data that you get is what then should form these decisions, right? That's where you get this information from. If we look at the months of June, July, August, September, what kind of testing was taking place? And I'm still going to stick on the testing because for me, it's one of the only ways you can really know what's present in the country or not. If you want to look at countries around the world, India, for example, that's recording high numbers of tests, or rather of positive cases on a daily basis, but then look at their testing. They've done millions. In terms of testing, that's how they are able to know. The United States, 7 million cases, but they've done millions of tests. That's how they are also able to know. We look at countries like Mexico and Brazil that are suffering, right now, and are almost not able to handle things. But how do they know? They're testing. So can we really say, just segueing off of what Eric is saying, Dr. Korir, can we truly say that with the information at hand, or that which agencies have been able to employ, that the state of things as is being reported is a true reflection of what's happening?
That's what I'm saying. We don't know. The only way, and you said it quite right, if you don't look for it, you won't find it, or you won't know that it's not there. And the only way to be able to know whether there's coronavirus in the country or not is through testing. So if your testing is not enough, if your testing is not representative of the population, you'll not be able to know. So I think for me the conversation then should move to, since we are not able to do the antigen testing, since we are not able to do the diagnostic testing to say, you have presence of coronavirus, then we should move to antibody testing, because now this one it will be able to give you a better picture of who in the population had been affected by COVID-19, and now they have developed antibodies. Remember, in June, we published a story. Well, the scientists said it was our reporting in media was not really correct, because it said 2.6 million Kenyans by then had been affected by coronavirus, when now Kemri, Wellcome Trust, and some other medics looked at blood that had been donated in various parts of the country, and they did antibody testing so that they could be able to work out the number of people who had probably been infected by that time. So anyway, our own crude estimates from the media was about 2.6 million. Of 2.6 million Kenyans by that time had been exposed to the virus. That was June. So we need more of those tests, because now they would be able to tell us, in Nairobi, out of 5 million people that are in Nairobi during the day, we see that 3 million of them had been exposed to the virus. That would be more useful information to the Ministry of Health, to the President, now to be able to say, okay, it looks like now 60% of the population have gotten the virus, so people have immunity, we can actually go back to our lives. But without that data, if we are still waiting to test and get everyone who's gotten the virus, then we'll still continue doing the same thing we were doing in March, chasing after the virus. It will not tell us anything new. Not that the looking for the virus should stop. It should continue, because we still have people who are contracting the virus and they are vulnerable. They have pre-existing conditions. So those people still need to be catered for. We still need our hospitals, isolation centers to attend to them. Recently, I was able to go into one of them, and actually the people who have been admitted there with the virus are actually really sick, and they need critical care. So our taking care of people should be focused on, okay, those who get sick, we know they'll likely be very, very sick and
Yeah.
they'll need critical care.
And that they're
so
able
we
to
make
access
sure
it.
those are there. Exactly, and they're able to access. And at least now, I can say for sure, the medical teams are now confident. They know what they are doing. They know what they are handling, and people are actually getting much, much better care compared
But are the
to
facilities
when we
there?
started on.
So
Yes, they are there.
that anybody who really requires critical care is able to immediately access the critical care facility.
Yes, they are there. That's what I can, because I have seen it for myself.
Mercy,
They're
where
there,
exactly?
they're available.
Where exactly is this available?
So
Which
since
which
you
facilities?
preempt my story that I'm working on.
Oh, okay. Then, so why don't I change the question and ask something that has nothing to do with your story? There is on the 29th, which was yesterday. There was
Today.
29th.
Today.
Okay. This is Eric's fault.
The 28th day of 29th.
Yes.
Yesterday.
The Monday, which is actually Tuesday. Yes.
The first Tuesday of the week.
The first Tuesday of the week. Okay. And it's me asking the question, not
sorry.
Eric. Okay. There has been news of a rapid test that takes up to just 30 minutes before it appeared in The Guardian. It's something that is being talked about. WHO has even, according to the article that I read in The Guardian, given authorization for emergency treatment on one of those tests. I'm assuming you've also heard or read about it as I have.
I haven't come across it yet.
All right. Now, there has been that discussion, and it follows, in my mind, a similar progression that was made with HIV, because for the longest time, rapid testing was something that wasn't commonplace, neither was it affordable. Why I'm bringing this discussion is because our problem with testing has been test kits. It's going to be here next week. It's going to be here the week after. That week, 5 weeks ago, it's still the next week. Now, if a test kit such as this one, which is being touted as being inexpensive and readily available, and organizations like, say, Find, who they call that a new diagnostic Foundation for Innovative New Diagnostics, who actually try to buy in bulk for third world countries like ours. If indeed this is available, would we then say that we might have a clearer picture of what our prevalence, what our positivity rate is? Because if it's cheaper, it's available, we'll definitely be able to test more people.
Definitely, especially if it is an antibody testing, if it's an antibody-based testing. The one I was talking about, where you're able to, because the rapid test in HIV is antibody-based. So if it's able to detect and do that initial screening and it's rapid, then you're able to actually know extent of the disease, on the prevalence of the disease in the country. So for me, that would be a very welcome diagnostic tool to incorporate into the mix. But even as you incorporate antibody testing, this one for detecting COVID-19 is still very, very important, because even in HIV, when you do the antibody screening, if it's positive, if you have the two lines, yes, it's very most likely indicative, but we always advise have it confirmed. And now you go and check for the presence of the antigen, the HIV virus in the blood. So it will probably follow the same pattern. And you've rightly said, because we have learned from HIV and other viral infections, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We know how things have been moving, we know how things progress, so we can actually move faster. So that there is a rapid diagnostic kit that even WHO has okayed for emergency use means that we have just learned lessons very fast. Unfortunately, maybe not African countries as fast as you'd expect, but that we have learned and we are able to quickly move in order to contain the disease. So I think for me, that would be a very welcome kit. And even just throughout the COVID period in the last 6 months, there have been many other rapid diagnostic kits introduced. Some laboratories have had it. They have used it, but there had been controversies around it because of you're not very certain about the accuracy of these diagnostic kits. That's why everyone was still relying very heavily on the testing that we know, because now that testing identifies the presence of the virus as opposed to the antibodies. So all of these measures really play a critical role. There's no one route only, but I think it's several things coming in together.
But all those things, Mercy, as we speak about, all these other possible ways that we can improve our testing capacity, all these other methods that we can go into testing, there was also talk earlier of KEMRI also developing its own testing kits. How far did that go?
I know they got do I say stuck in approvals because of you have to be really key on accuracy, that it's supposed to meet to pick a certain, I forget what the percentage was, but I think they're looking at it's supposed to pick, I think, more than 90% or detect more than 90% of the cases. So because you have to validate them. So if they are not picking, then that is not a test that you would deploy out in the public, because it means it would miss some cases. So you have to look at its accuracy.
So are they still working on it? Are they still continuing to fine-tune their development?
I don't know how far they are now. I've not followed up on that particular one.
You see, the point I'm driving at with that question is, even as we look at, there's other companies, other organizations out there that are working on rapid test kits or other methods of testing and hoping that then that can be deployed in this country. I'm just peppering that with the reality. If we are not in our own making concrete and a lot of effort in developing that internally, and if we have not even made sufficient effort into increasing our own testing capacity, we have never tested 7,000 samples in a day.
And yet we've had the capacity, by the way.
We have that capacity.
We have never tested 7,000 samples in a day in this country. So this whole talk of, there are others happening elsewhere in the world. The reality of it happening in this country. How you get what I'm asking?
Yes. So how I look at it, and maybe this is just the scientist in me looking at it, is who do we need to test? What do we need to test? In my opinion, who we need to test is that person who the identification of the virus will make the doctors or the medics develop a management plan, a treatment plan for them, or it is absolutely important for us to know that you have the virus or not. Now, if you're otherwise going about your day, you have no symptoms.
Yep.
Why do we need to test? We don't need to. So that's why I'm saying we need two-prong approach to our testing. So once you know who you want to test and why, then you're able to separate. So the person who you need to know if they have the virus or not, you categorize them. Those ones you'll just be needing to test in the hospital, people going for surgery, people who've come with symptoms, you do the antigen testing.
Yep.
Then for the rest of the population, the rest of us guys who are out here, what we need is the antibody-based testing.
And this,
testing
what you're saying now, Dr. Mercy,
yes,
you have said it before. Other scientists and other doctors and other people in the medical profession have said it many times. It hasn't been deployed.
No, so now you don't need to do it mass testing. So that's where I was getting to. You don't need to go and pitch camp and say now we are doing mass testing for antibody to check if you've had coronavirus or not. There are ways to it. And like the way the first study that KEMRI Wellcome did was to identify any presence of antibodies in blood samples. You can also now look for a representative sample of the population, and then you go out and pick out of them. If let's say, for example, you're saying you need to get 1 in every 1,000 person, then you do that sample collection. There should be a methodology to it, so that now you come back and say, from these studies that we've done throughout Kenya over this period of time, this is the prevalence, and so we think A, B, C, and D. But not pitching camp and saying, now we've done 7,000 tests. And the way we're doing it, for me, it was not really as useful as going into those details and getting the nitty-gritties of it.
Actually, what you're saying is actually happening. The process has begun, I think probably towards the end of the year, or is it early next year? There is a center in Cambridge called Center for Respiratory Disease Control. They will be conducting the studies similar to exactly what you've stated. And at the end of it, we will have a clearer picture of what the prevalence is. Yes.
Okay. So then we are moving in the right direction.
Yes.
And for scientists, they don't usually announce first until they get the results.
No,
Yeah.
they don't.
So then we are moving in the right direction.
Doctor, let's wrap this up. I mean, just look and hear even all the things that were said yesterday. Is there still a danger? I mean, we've heard Dr. Moth talk about, a second wave of infections and the health system then not being able to carry. Is this danger real?
Okay, so I'm looking at how I'm looking at things is one, our population has had 9 in 10 people do not have any symptoms. So that's a good thing. So it means even if there's a second wave, we are likely to still see the same kind of picture. But two, what I am what I'm is it laying my hope on or
optimistic
about is that we are getting into warmer, hotter temperatures and a season where the virus does not really thrive. So I personally don't see us getting a second wave, and that's just from me, and having seen the pattern. So seeing the pattern in the West, seeing what we've had here, I do not see us getting a second wave. We'll probably just continue sustained infections in the vulnerable group, the way you said. So those infections will still be there. But I don't foresee a situation where now we are overwhelmed. Two is that the way we are gradually opening and easing, and people are asking, why didn't the president just open up? Why do we still need a curfew? So you need to ease things slowly, such that by the time you're now fully opening, you have been gradually getting there. So you gradually reduce the curfew hours. You gradually increase the number of people in gatherings as you watch and see, so that whatever is happening, you have sort of a controlled, your numbers are within a certain level that you can control. Even if they spike, it is just minimal. You can be able to pick and bring it down immediately. So I do not foresee us getting into a phase where now we are crying, we are overwhelmed by everything that's happening.
Dr. Mercy Korir, we want to thank you very much for speaking to us this morning, shedding light on the fight against COVID-19. Of course, we hope to have you in the studio soon.
Hopefully, yes.
Yep.
And many people are telling me Corona imeisha. So we'll make it to studio next.
We'll see.
Asante sana. Dr. Mercy Korir is a group editor for health and science of the Standard Group, and she's been speaking to us, of course, just getting us to understand where we are at in the fight against COVID-19. Keep it right here. In the next hour, we look at the economic side of COVID-19. We know that very many people have lost their income, lost their livelihoods. The government came up with some measures to ease the livelihoods of people, and the president yesterday announced some continuation of some of those measures. So we want to look at the impact that is likely going to have. It's 3 minutes to 8 o'clock. This is the Situation Room on Spice FM. KTN Home. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM.
That song.
All right, coming to the top of the hour, just to remind you as you get to the top of the hour that you can enjoy this waiver, 100% waiver on penalties and interest by the Nairobi City County Government on all defaulters of land rates. This offer expires on the 15th day of October. So take advantage of that right now. It's been offered 100% waiver on interest and penalties for land rates. Good morning. Coming up to 8 o'clock. Keep it right here. In the next hour, we still look at COVID-19 from the economic side.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM. Kisumu.
Okay.
Traffic.
So the folks on the Eastern Bypass have decided today that there is going to be a no-go zone, right? So traffic at Pipeline towards the airport is crazy. It's bumper to bumper and it's not moving. And then as you're trying to get to Taj Mall coming in from that area, that also is crazy. And now, as if it was not bad enough on Kiambu Road with the mishmash that it is, there have been multiple car accidents right before the DCI on Kiambu Road this morning, and it's making traffic that is already there now is making evacuation of those mangled vehicles very, very difficult. So in addition to the traffic jam on Kiambu Road, there have been a couple of accidents, and so moving on Kiambu Road is not happening. Okay, so Eastern Bypass, Kiambu Road, that's a mess. Outer Ring, headed towards Taj Mall, also a hot mess, guys. Traffic is bumper to bumper, it's not even moving. I can't, I don't know what to do to help you. But this is what we're seeing. Other parts of the city, however, not moving too badly, except for Huru Highway, which is moving very slowly this morning, but it's moving all the same. So that's a good thing. One step. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. Or in this case, one step on the gas.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
2.5 minutes after 8, the conversation continues right here on Spice FM 94.4 Nairobi, Malindi 97.7, 102.5 in Kisumu, 87.9 in Mombasa, Nakuru 96.0, Eldoret 96.7, and Nyeri 90.9. The conversation also continues on KTN Home and online at www.spicefm.co.ke and SpiceFM KE on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. So the president yesterday extended some of the measures that he had introduced earlier in order to ease the suffering of the pockets of the people as we were fighting COVID-19. Remember the goodies? 14% VAT. This, he says, to be retained until the 1st of January next year. 25% income tax on pay as you earn, extended by another 3 months. Income tax rate up to end of the year, that's 25% for the companies. 100% tax relief for those earning up to 24,000. 2,500, that's the minimum buying price per 90 kilogram bag of maize. So he says some of these measures will continue. And, when these measures were initially announced, people had mixed reactions. There's those that said, yes, what that does is that it releases money to circulate in the economy. And then there are those who are saying, I don't even feel that effect of any of these measures because I'm not feeling it. What I did not hear the president announce, for example, is an extension to Kazim Tani. Or did he?
No. I didn't hear.
Which is a direct cash transfer. Or a renewed cash transfer to the elderly, that is the Inua Jamii Fund that takes care of the elderly 70 and above, or such other measures. So, which were basically direct cash transfers to go and help people. Should the president have extended those ones or even just expanded them? For example, when we were speaking with the CS for Interior, Dr. Kibicho, a couple of weeks back, he told us, look, this fund is limited. We only have X amount of money. And the number of people who are in need are over 1 million. And we can only support about 200,000 youth countrywide. So really, there's only so much you can do. And this expires in October, was it? Yes, in
There's
October.
only so much you can do now.
Now.
The future.
Yep. So maybe some of the measures that we also could discuss now is, now that we're where we are and we're saying let's reopen the economy, how about give people some cash that they can use to jumpstart their own livelihoods and
In
lives?
fact, the thinking behind supporting the citizenry of a country with literally doling out cash is precisely that, so that the economy doesn't grind to a halt. When people have money, their
They spend
usual,
it.
yes, exactly, their normal commercial and economic activities continue. And the economy keeps running.
Yep.
If there is no money, then the activities of the economy will automatically slow down. Yes, so yes, it is something that is worth considering. But then again, at the expense of what else? Is there something that we can put a halt to? Are there things, this is my favorite bit, are there things that we don't necessarily have to do now?
Yeah, for the next 6 months.
Yes, as we consider diverting that money perhaps to some of these things, and then in the next 6 months have a look-see. Because even now, what we're talking about now is because an opportunity presented itself where time was given and now we're able to do this. But that people need that direct cash injection is not a matter for yesterday, it's an immediacy. It's something that needs to be considered in the here and now.
Are there things that are currently going on upon which the plug can be pulled and then given a stay of operation so that people can get something, you know? Because the question then will be asked to look for these extra funds that you could then now mop up and put in the hands of people. One thing has to suffer. Are there things that are going on right now that are not of necessity in the country that you can now say, all right, let's divert some things and then move
You know, this
on?
isn't new. The government, by the way, does that. It's not that we're not suggesting something completely outlandish.
Yep.
No, it does that. And also remember, not all government ministries are able to, should we say, mop up whatever funds are given for whatever reason in every given year. Now, meaning every single year without fail, there will be cases where we are informed there are funds which have remained unspent. Now, whether they remained unspent because they were given at a time which was just before the end of the financial year, so they actually couldn't spend it no matter how hard they tried, or whether it was budgeted for, it was meant to be given, it was absolutely just never given, so they didn't have it, or whether they were actually given the money, but they were slow in ensuring that whatever operations they were supposed to undertake were not undertaken in time. Whatever the reason,
Yep.
there is no year since the existence of this government or any other government in the world where all the money that is given is always spent. It never happens. It never happens. So, given the situation that we are in then, if we may borrow, now this purely as a layman, I'm sure the Treasury has this under control. They've thought through everything I'm about to say and they understand what needs to be done. But if we look at what the UK did when COVID visited their shores, they rejigged their entire budget again.
They did.
Yes. Perhaps we should, maybe they've rejected it, but they haven't told us. So if they have, maybe they should tell us how they've rejected it.
CT, our budget was presented in the middle of COVID. Right? So by the time the budget was being taken to Parliament at the end of April, COVID was already on our shores. By the time the CS for the National Treasury was presenting the budget statement in Parliament in June, COVID was already here.
The president
Had it
had
been
already
rejigged?
given direction by then in terms of what measures were going to be then applied to the people for things like relief or cash in hand.
Then why
kind
are we
of
having
thing.
this discussion if those things
The
are actually
budget
applied?
policy statement was not rejigged. It still looked at focusing on
Yes.
the big four going forward.
Yes.
All right. So all these things that if it didn't happen then, and it was right there where everybody is crying and saying, look, we do not know what's going to happen. We don't even know whether this thing is going to kill us. We don't know how heavy this thing is going to be. The only kind of moving around of finances that we are seeing is saying we have money that is meant to go for UHC in this financial year. We shall take $1 billion of it and hire medical workers. That's all we are seeing. In terms of the 2021, 2022, 2020-2021 financial year budget, didn't see much that said, now this is a budget to kickstart the economy after COVID-19.
Did you hear it? No.
No.
So this being in the middle of COVID and our budget being smack in the middle of it, so?
My point is, at that point, where it was clearly obvious that this is something that you could do.
It clearly wasn't obvious.
Rejig this
Something
budget.
could have been done at that point when
Present
the
this
process was
budget.
finishing. The
Yep.
process was completing.
No, it wasn't obvious.
But look, this is what I'm saying. It was already clear that the effect on the economy was going to be 1, 2, 3.
Clear to whom?
People had already started with the entire country, CT. Everybody was already feeling the brunt, right? Okay.
Everybody was feeling who?
Okay, well, let's talk about the masses, right? The masses in this country, the greater percentage of the population had already felt it. It didn't take a month. It didn't take a month for people to lose their jobs. It didn't take a month, right? So what I'm saying...
And did those who make these decisions lose their jobs
This
as
is
well?
what I am saying. The people who made the decisions should have had the foresight to
Did they?
say, this is what is going on. It was still good time. It was still good time for plum pickings to be able to say, let's rework this thing. Is there something we can do to make sure that we buffer the people? And that's what I'm saying.
You see,
it should have
It
been
was,
done at that
it was
You
done when
see-
it was piecemeal. For example, now,
Yes.
the stimulus package that was announced by the government, all right? The piecemeal stimulus package. 10 billion shillings to the hospitality sector. We are speaking with people in the hospitality sector who say they have not been able to access this money. Some money that was, pledged to help the education sector. We were speaking with somebody from the
Thanks, Rela.
education, Banjali, Mimi ko hapa. People who are working in the private education sector who are saying, how many schools are closing? 119 schools, private schools, will not be able to reopen.
Right.
They haven't been able to access this money in whatever form. They don't even know whether this money is available to them. So some of these measures were announced in terms of the stimulus package. Others were either factored in the budget, and others, of course, they were in the last financial year. That's why, for example, Kazi Mtaani, the cash transfer program, is coming to
an
is
end.
expiring, it's
Yeah.
coming to an end, and others are also coming to an end. Let's borrow. We had the opportunity to borrow from the UK what they were doing 4 months ago.
No. You see,
The
your argument is
opportunity-
premised, and as is Her Excellency's. It's
Her
premi-
Majesty.
Yeah, Excellencies, you, Majesty, this one. Okay. The plebeian is saying this, okay? We are assuming that when it comes to rational decisions and decision-making processes that are supposed to benefit the so-called less fortunate, that we inhabit the same sort of like space as those who make decisions on our behalf. No, wrong thinking.
So you're saying that we don't take up residency in the same mental place?
I am saying that decision-making, the president is not in this at all. No, the president is advised. Even if he were a monarch, as some people have referred to him, he would still be advised. Okay? So now you could argue about the quality of the advisors, but he is advised and he's told it's A, B, C, D. All right? That these things were in the public domain, yes. That it was obvious to our leaders, not necessarily.
Sure, okay, CT accused me of being an idealist. Okay.
No, I'm not
I
actually
understand,
going there.
But I'm saying this is what
It's
it
not being
should,
an idealist.
this is what it should be.
You've just misplaced
Being a
certain
realist.
priorities and assumed.
So you're being a realist, okay, fine. However, the ideal situation should be that you look at what the heartbeat of the country is at that point and exactly borrow from examples of what have been done in other countries, if you must, and say, look, fantastic opportunity. You're right in the middle of the budget making process and you see this big bad monster is coming at you. There are certain things that you should be able to now make a turnaround and do.
Who reality, did you say? You know why I stopped speaking and I opened my mouth? There are times when you hear something, the only thing you can do is actually open your mouth.
That one is called kupigwa na butwa.
Yes. And the only sound that can come out of your mouth is, yes.
Hey, Chukunna.
So it was butwa, this one.
No, because I'm thinking, hiya, wait, you're speaking as though we don't have ample evidence that has shown that what you're saying is the very thing that never happens in this country.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't happen, but it doesn't mean that you can't aspire to that or keep putting it out there that is what the situation
It
should
is because
be.
I understand that. That's why I'm saying rejig. I am repeating it again. And I'm going by a very, very simple dictum. Sometimes if you actually genuinely want to be heard, you need to speak loudly.
And consistently.
Yes.
Yes.
Sometimes you even need to shout. So this has been said before. I'm saying it again. Being cognizant of the fact that perhaps if I say it loud enough, some of our leaders may come and inhabit this same space that the rest of us inhabit because they're not actually with us here.
ICT Muga. Aware, blah, blah, blah.
Know ye all
Cognizant.
men by
Blah,
this
blah,
ye
blah,
all
blah.
men by this presence that I see Muga.
Very nice.
Yes. So all I'm saying is we have experts, we have professionals, and then we have spare. Okay? Yeah, we have many, in other words.
Got it.
Understanding capacity, we have. Planning capacity, we have. Implementing capacity, we have. Implementing willingness. Now that's where the division in the solar system comes in. You suddenly realize, okay,
Day, night.
we were okay up at that point, but it was just a visitation. It wasn't something
the
that was
passing comet.
yes. So essentially, all this thinking that you have in your mind. But then, having said that, if I was to speak seriously and look at the things that the government actually has done, then I would say they could have done more, because the fact that you can do this means you actually can do it, and there are things the government has done. I was arguing yesterday that this process of COVID and everything around it should be staggered. And Eric correctly pointed out to me that, look, this is what the government has been doing. And I was still arguing then and saying, not quite. But in reality, having given it ample thought and consideration, Eric was right. The government actually has been staggering this thing. And those who are advising the president on this matter have done an excellent job.
In
Proof
terms of
of-
the staggering of
yes,
information
yes,
as well.
yes.
We give you just a little bit.
Yes,
right?
yes, excellent.
Feed them that.
Excellent.
Then we come back and give them some more.
Don't get constipated on
No,
this one.
no.
Just take this
A
little
little
bit,
bit, we'll
deal
come
with it.
back more.
Yes. And then this matter of the school, which seemed to have engulfed our conversations, the president comes up and says something absolutely sensible. No, why don't we do A, B, C, D, and C, and then make our decision based on the information we will have. Perfect. Now, if we can have that, it means we can plan for these things we're saying and ensure that this 6 months which ended when it came to the Inua Mgongo initiative and the other one, Fungua Macho,
Oh, okay.
I'm actually not being facetious.
No, I understand. I was a bit lost for a moment there in terms of what was going on. But
These
okay.
initiatives that are supposed to help ease the burden of your back, that's what I'm
Got-
calling it, Inua Mgongo.
I got it, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yes. Fungua Macho is, it opens your eyes so that you can actually see what's going to happen in the future with greater clarity.
Since you're in fine form today, man.
Okay.
Wow.
6 months. We can do another 6 months.
It's possible to do these
So
things,
why
you know?
aren't we having that conversation? Look, yesterday the president was urging the National Treasury, directing them to speed up the rollout of the credit guarantee scheme in partnership with participating banks and development partners so that SMEs can access these funds. Okay? So some of these things that were already announced more than 2 months before have still not rolled out.
They're still being encouraged.
This thing being encouraged, being ordered, being directed, being urged. Now, here we are. You've said, okay, so Sasa, we have opened the economy. And remember, it's you people. If you get COVID, by the way, just remember, I'll close again. But at the same time, the actual needs of the ordinary person for having cash in their pocket, being able to pay rent at the end of this month, being able to meet their needs, being able to even start saving towards schools reopening, whenever they're going to be reopened. We don't know. It's like the second coming. Whenever. Having that boost, that injection in the pocket, That's not a conversation that's happening.
Probably.
And I'm
they-
wondering, maybe they're having the conversation behind closed doors
They
and they'll come and
probably
announce.
are. They probably
some-
are, because remember, there's a narrative that is always lurking behind all these conversations. We don't have money. And my view on that particular subject is known. Yes, we have money. All right. So, remember, we had an article today that spoke about our president leaving to go to France. And the Nation, front page, Kabza, who off to France? President leaves tomorrow on begging mission.
Yep.
We can assume that since, if we take this statement to be absolutely true, that perhaps this begging, should it bear fruit, would be able
There'll
to
be some cash.
Help
yes,
the people.
yes, and with that cash, some of these problems that we are speaking of, we may actually be in a position to alleviate some of these difficulties.
We line up at JKI when he comes back. Kila mtu 500.
Does he think he has come with suitcases? Yes. Get away.
Eric, he doesn't have to do that. In this day and age, Safaricom has the numbers of everybody who
Oh,
has
wow,
and all
even
the
better.
other. Yes,
Okay.
so that one, you just say,
Just sit
when
back
you wake up
and
in the morning,
wait.
just wake up.
Ting ting.
Yes.
On your phone.
You will know.
It sounds funny as we say these things, but isn't that generally then what people are asking for? And it's not, I mean, the cash in your pocket could be just that, but then it could actually stand for something else. That really it is a crying out of people to feel protected and buffered by their government, which essentially is what they are supposed to be there to do, to continually create a conducive environment where your people can thrive. That's your job. So now in situations, and guess what? Creation of this environment is one of the ways to do that is actually putting something in the hands and the mouths of your people so that they can actually survive. Once you do that and you take care of that, there's absolutely nothing. I'm sure there's nothing that you will ask of these people that essentially they would not do, or for which they would not fall in line for. So it looks to me like even as people were saying, open the economy, even as people were saying open bars, even as people were saying open restaurants, what were they really saying?
They were saying,
protect me.
Protect me.
Give me something
and
so
set
that I can
me free
live.
to do something for myself.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's what
Yes.
it is.
So would you then argue that because for the last 6 months, the government has been disbursing 1.3 billion shillings every month to go to these families that were receiving money, the cash transfer. Now that we've reopened, then those people are able to come out and make a living, so we can therefore justify, because
Actually-
it's ending in the first week of October, so we can therefore justify them not receiving any more money.
No, they should continue receiving money.
For how
because
long?
you are assuming, another 6 months, we are assuming that just because the announcement has been made, the economy is just going to sort of like resurrect.
It was there
jump
waiting
up.
for you.
No, that's not going to happen. There are certain things that have happened that are not going to change overnight. There are things which will never change and they'll never go back to what they were before. It's just a reality. Never, ever, 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 ever.
I mean, just think about
Even
when-
if COVID ends today and there's no more COVID on the planet, there are certain things that cannot revert back to factory settings.
That's
they cannot.
true. Just think about when somebody's sick and you give them a shot of antibiotics in the arm. Do they stand up and start walking immediately?
No.
There are certain things that you must do to be able to get this person back to life. Either they need to rest, you need to give them something to boost them back to where it was that they were before.
You see, this work, a lot of it also has to do with where people will be employed. Remember why this money is important. If you have manufacturing outfits, if you have commercial outfits, they trade. Now, for this to work, there has to be cash for people to purchase. That whole chain, the value chain. Okay.
Yep.
So, by giving this money, all you're doing is injecting money. By the way, this money comes back to the government anyway.
It does. And you're
Yes.
not asking for millions in
No,
the hands of one
this money
individual.
eventually comes back. It's not as though you're going to give someone 3,000 shillings and then they're going to save it. No, they're going to spend it.
Of course.
And in spending it, what they're doing is they're keeping the commercial wheels of government
Moving.
moving. So it is in the government's interest to keep itself moving. So that 1.3, just look for another 1.3 per month and keep giving. All right?
I know Eric wants to go to a break, but you know it's very important then for us to ask about the fund and where that money essentially
Which
went.
fund?
The one now. I don't know the fund.
That fund.
That one.
The COVID-19 Emergency Relief
Till
Fund.
tomorrow, they said they're going to release a report about how this
Where
money was
we've
going
been sending harambes.
the Harambe fund, that one.
It bought PPEs.
They're
That
not
was
testing.
announced. After it was announced, it remained announced. Has anything happened thereafter?
We don't know.
And remember, when you open schools, there's this story of COVID masks, not chin masks or forehead masks, face masks.
Yep.
Man, You open up schools, expenditure shoots up.
Shoots
Right
up.
now, they've just been dealing with paying teachers. Okay. In short, the rejigging that I spoke of becomes necessary.
Necessary.
An opportunity may have been missed, but doesn't mean
You
you
can't
can't revisit
backtrack.
it, yes, and say, okay, folks,
Yeah.
we missed it then. But can we now sit and actually reject this thing? Forget this hit and miss thing of saying, okay, Nani, where do let's rebudget, let's relook, let's announce and tell the country, look, this is what we've done, this is what we've had, this is where we're going with this.
So I probably should ask the question and invite callers to call in 0719-012-600. What should the government do to support citizens as we reopen the economy? Right? What is it that the government ought to do then to reopen, to support citizens as we reopen the economy? Yes, we know that there's this extension, 14% VAT going on until January next year, the reduction in income tax, reduction in PAYE, continuing of people who are earning less than 24,000 shillings getting 100% waiver on their payee. What else? We know that the cash transfer programs are coming to an end in October. Kazi Mtaani coming to an end. The other one that has been going to 670,000 families across the country receiving money every week from the government, that is also coming to an end. Now, if the cash transfer programs are coming to an end, the desks program, of course, is limited. It's X number of desks that you shall produce as an SME. What else can the government do? Let's take a break. 25 minutes after 8. This is the Situation Room on Spice FM, KTN Home and online.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM. The
Overnight,
weather
looking at
with
partly cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning and likely to see highs of 27 and lows of 15 today. Nyeri is partly cloudy at 17, going to highs of 26 and lows of 14. Nakuru 17 degrees and mostly sunny. It'll change later though, with rains expected, highs of 25 and lows of 13. 23 will be the high in Eldoret. It's mostly sunny at 16 at the moment. Partly cloudy conditions in Kisumu rule the morning at 19 degrees, highs of 28 and lows of 18 with a chance of showers later on. Moving on west in Kakamega, it will rain today, 26 the high and lows of 16. Mombasa is mostly cloudy at 26, highs of 29 and lows of 23 and a chance of the showers coming back. Malindi, 26 degrees and mostly cloudy, highs of 29 and lows of 24 with a chance of rains later on. It's going to rain in Kampala today, finally. Highs of 26 and lows of 19, mostly cloudy conditions, currently at 19 degrees. It's mostly sunny in Dar es Salaam today, no fog for now. Highs of 31 and lows of 22. And in Joburg, there is some fog at 9 degrees, highs of 24 and lows of 9. And then finally, the thunderstorms continue in Lagos. Highs of 28 and lows of 23, and rains well into Wednesday. In Beijing, well, we'll look at that later, but that's what the weather looks like for now.
Traffic.
Right, so there's an accident along Kiambu Road today. It just seems like 6 vehicles decided that they were going to greet each other in a manner that was not very palatable for the rest. 5+ car accident on Kiambu Road this morning. Traffic was already terrible, and they're not able to move the vehicles because of traffic behind and in front of this accident. So it's a mess, guys, and it's spilling over to the Thika Superhighway today. Okay, the Matatu stage at the Juja Bridge is terrible, guys, and this is causing some traffic right around there. So we have some problems, okay? On the Eastern Bypass also, it's a teeth-pulling exercise trying to get out of there in terms of traffic. It is chock-a-blocked, bumper to bumper. It's not moving. Trying to get into the CBD from any of these areas will cause you a bit of a headache today. So if you can avoid it, please do. But we'll let you know if you find anything else. There's some major overlapping in Utawala because of that traffic. So yeah, right in the middle of traffic hour, wherever you choose to look at it. Spice FM KE. That's how you can reach us on Twitter. Let's see if we can help you out this morning.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
Morning.
Nairobi.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. In the room this and every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. is CT Muga Wamashati, Nduoko, Your Majesty, and Eric Latif, My Excellency.
Yours.
Your personal excellency.
My Excellency Eric Latif. So, looking at the measures for, alleviating the suffering of the citizens, COVID-19, we know that the government announced some of these measures earlier. For example, issues when it came to tax, there was a reduction of VAT from 16 to 14%. The president has directed that this continues until January next year. 25% payee dropping from 30%, 25% income tax dropping from 30%. Those who earn at least up to 24,000 shillings getting 100% waiver on their payee. And also, the central bank as well had also announced an extension to the waiver of transaction fees for any amounts below 1,000 shillings. Remember? Via mobile money and also bank to mobile as well. So that was extended. But we know that the government has also been spending, it has so far spent about 10 billion shillings sending money directly to people's pockets. And 669,000 households have been receiving weekly cash injections directly via M-Pesa. And then we also know that 341,000 households have received the weekly 1,000 shillings stipend to cushion them from the economic hardships caused by this. We also know that there is the Kazim Taani that is targeting the able-bodied youth who are receiving cash on a regular basis as they participate in nation-building several activities. We also know that among the other injection plans is this one for schools, desks, that the government is buying a number of desks and spending, how much was it, 10 billion to purchase desks from local artisans who are making them. But all these are coming to an end in a short while. So we are reopening the economy, and we are now saying, okay, now you can go back to doing many of the activities that you were doing, apart from those that were working full 24 hours, okay? Because I'm still thinking that bus and overnight transport can still not happen.
No, I mean, that's
Unless the bus is there before 11 p.m. when the curfew starts. So the ones that were doing overnight travel, maybe not. So some sectors may not fully reopen. Those that were depending on the full night operations may not fully reopen, but at least there's some reprieve. The question is that enough to help people to get back on their feet? Can the government do more to help people get back on their feet? Can the government, for example, just directly extend these cash transfer programs by, say, another 3 to 6 months? I know, CT, you're saying 6.
6.
Another 6 months. Say, the families that have been receiving 1,000 shillings every week, let them continue receiving another
Plan
6
for
months.
6 months.
Plan for 6 months.
Yes.
So look at some of the government programs now, say scale back and redirect that money going into directly helping people. Some economists may argue that that is not necessarily helpful. Because the
know-
other activities that are budgeted, the other government programs are also
Yes,
helping to
that's-
move the economy.
I agree completely. I agree completely. But if you consider the argument we've had with the advisory that was given by the Chief Justice to the President about dissolving Parliament, and you've listened to arguments on both sides, each side is as convincing as the other.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, in the same way, when economists present their case, they are looking at it from the perspective of an economist.
Right.
And the argument I'm saying is this: with all due respect, there are certain realities we have in this country that require you to rejig that economics also. And ask yourself, there's an immediacy of need that may not make economic sense, but it'll make psychological sense. It also makes security sense. Because if you have people who understand that they're being looked after, then their inclination towards approaching life more positively is greater. So you have to ask yourself, yes, the economists may be pragmatic, but this may not be a time when we want that level of pragmatism. We want to combine that pragmatism with a little element of, should we say, mental cushioning, so that people feel safe. Okay? When things have evened out and it's clear that we're not having to deal with the disease in the background, then by all means, apply all those economic measures fully.
That's what I was saying. I don't know that it's an entirely, physical, tangible solution that you're going to offer. But if anything, it's like a shot in the arm psychologically when it is that you're giving people an option or something that they can actually use to move forward, to lurch forward.
And look forward to.
Absolutely. To be able to say, all right, well, here we are, then I can actually get up and go. I can now also add to this my contribution and get up and go. Because as I hear, we talked about this over the last few days. And when we said, okay, what needs to happen? That was what it was. It was really a begging of people to please just reopen so that you can find something to do. Whether it is enough or not in terms of what was done yesterday, then becomes a totally different conversation. However, the beckoning call was, please give us something that allows us to be able to wake up and start this thing, that puts some dignity back, into our hands. Now, could something else be done? Could it be reworked so that then people have, a little bit more to go on? Because we said this. Now it's open. Today is Tuesday. People may be now open to a certain extent, all right? People go back into working. We said that service industries that had been affected greatly, amongst those restaurants and bars and hotels and things like this. So people essentially going back to work. Is the change immediate? Obviously not. It's going to take some time before you get back to where you were and then be able to surpass that. So I do think that something more in terms of an injection is necessary to boost people, to help them, because on their own, without that, it's going to be very, very difficult. Uphill task that, I don't know that many people in the country at this point even have the shoes to wear.
These are circumstances that nobody could have foreseen, and one could argue one couldn't have prepared for. But X number of months into the pandemic, and X number of months into understanding not just the vagaries, but the total effects of it, yes, the rejigging I was speaking of is due. Because you have a clearer idea than you had 6 months ago. You have a clearer understanding of what needs to be done, what is happening, and you have a clear idea of what you would like to see, which is actually practical and which can be achieved. So the decision-making process is far better informed now than it was 6 months ago.
As you say that, Siti, and I think maybe we can all get onto this, I just got, a message that I've seen now is that, aren't we demanding a little bit too much from the government? It seems that they have tried to do the best that they can. With the president now opening up the economies to the extent that he felt that it was safe to do so, can't we then call on citizens to do their own part?
And what is their own part?
What is their
What
own
is that
part,
own
apart
part?
from getting up and going?
When the UK government started reopening the economy, they looked at, they have reopened pubs and restaurants. What did they do? They come up with it, eat out to help out, so that they can support
Yes.
the rejigging of the pubs and restaurant sector. So what was it? You go and eat out in any restaurant and the government will pay 50% of the bill.
Yes.
But you know what? The same government had already put money in the hands of these individuals who had lost their jobs.
People who had lost
so that
their
they
jobs
could
were
go and
actually still
eat
earning
out.
the salaries
Yes.
from the government.
They could actually go and eat out because they were strong. They were strong in the pocket, right?
Yep.
The government had already helped, and here they are helping some more by saying, "Okay, you have this money, you can expend, right?"
What we want to do is we want to
Go
encourage
out.
people to
Yeah.
come to these restaurants because the restaurants have been closed and they have even laid off their workers. Now that you have reopened, let's encourage people to come to those establishments. And how would you encourage them? By saying that we are going to foot half the bill.
Half the bill.
Half the bill is on the government. Now that is the government doing something and the people playing their part. What is it that we are telling the people of Kenya to play their part on? The families that have been receiving 1,000 bob every week from the government, all right, across the country. What is it that is happening this week that is going to be different from 2 weeks down the road because of yesterday's announcement by the president?
Throw it even into a month.
Throw it into a month.
That will now
Eric,
change
that
and
will
say
change.
that they can now live without this 1,000 shilling stipend.
No. There
Immediately.
are people even before COVID needed that 1,000.
Yep.
And the numbers are not few.
The youth that are now working in Kazi Mtaani and are really, really enjoying and, saying, I'm going
Finally.
out, I'm working, I'm earning something. When it comes to an end this coming month, what is it that we are saying that, okay, now the economy has been opened, you've stopped working for doing this Kazi Mtaani, now play your part.
What
youth.
part?
What part? What is that part? 0719-012-600. Also post your comment on Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. Let us know, are you satisfied with the measures that the government has in place now? As the government announced, the president announced the reopening of the economy yesterday, are you satisfied that these measures that are in place now are going to help the people actually re-emerge?
Is it going to help?
Is it going to help? Is that going to help? Is an extension of 14% VAT, is an extension of 25%, a drop by 5% of the income tax? Is that enough?
But even more significantly, what else would you like to see the government do?
Yep.
Okay? And even as we talk about what the government can do, you as a citizen, what do you think you can do? Give us your opinion. What do you actually think you can do?
Yep. What is it that the citizens then can now do that will be different, that will also help us get back on our feet? Because that's what we need. We need to get back on our feet. Eric Odongo calling from Karen. Good morning, Eric.
The president tried. I congratulate the president because of
Okay.
bar and restaurant. But this is the time when we are praying that the government could control, for example, transport system, housing, and maybe like something to do with the supermarket. If the government is able to control the housing system, wange subsidize our rent. Then transport here, if the government wangekuwa wana control the transport system, at least ingekuwa cheap
Okay.
right now. And then for the supermarket, if the government wangekuwa na tu supermarket yao, each and every country kuna supermarket ya government. Remember, saizi hizo maunga and these dry things, I mean the basic commodity, saizi wange subsidize, ingekuwa half, at least ingesaidia mwananchi. But this is the time the government should rethink that they should control certain things. Yeah.
Okay. Eric, you called us yesterday and you said if the president announced a lifting of these restrictions, then you are confident that you'll be able to get back to work almost immediately, within a week.
Yeah.
Are you still as confident?
Yeah. On Monday, I'm going back to work, but it's transport. You see.
Okay. So you're going back
That's
to work,
another
but on an
challenge
empty
now.
pocket.
But I'm in the pocket transport, so I'll walk. I'll just walk. But that's a good gesture. It's a glimpse of hope that now I'm having a job.
All right.
But it's a transport, so we'll just walk. Most of guys will just walk.
Thank you very much, Eric, for calling in. Do you want to ask him?
No, just going off of this, it just seems that this will be the reality for a lot of people, at this point, who are saying that, all right, so I've got my job back. The sector may have opened up a little bit, but what it means is that I'm going to have to squeeze some more until I get now that first payment after having been away from work for some time. You're going to have people skipping meals. You're going to have people walking to work, to and from work. You're going to have people then not. It's going to be a painful situation for some time before they get back on their feet. And this seems to be the option that quite a number of people are going to take.
And it isn't even a short while, because if you have an understanding landlord who gives you a moratorium, you're going to have to pay that rent.
Yeah, because now guess what? You're going back to work, no?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Everything will not go back to what it was. This is the thing that people must understand, that some of these changes are permanent. But the real change ought to take place in the way we look at things. Because you will be disappointed if you keep thinking that things will go back to what we consider normal. It won't. And talking about the thinking, I sometimes wonder, this is just wondering, that is it that the government can't do this, or is it that they can't, people who make those decisions can't move their minds to think differently? Because
Why?
Because it would appear that they've never done something like this before. So you would wish that they would employ that.
You're really wondering, right?
No, I'm wondering, because if we're in the middle with the middle of a pandemic, and we have a budget and people are talking about Agenda 4, you talk about the things we're talking about before COVID, I have to wonder. The planning was good before COVID, makes sense. This is what you wanted to do, but there's COVID, so it's your mind. You don't think, or you don't seem to understand that there needs to be a change, or in your mind.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, you're on a road going a certain direction,
22.
and then there's a roadblock. There's an accident. There's been diversion by force, but you say, no.
It's all right, this is the way.
We're going this way, and we're going to stay here until it opens up. No. You have to think and say, okay, let's move. Let's use another way. Let's employ other things along the way to still get us where we are going.
Yes, we do think that, and then we say, let's borrow some more.
It helps.
It helps.
Let's go back to the phone lines. Daniel calling in from Kisumu. Hello.
Yes, good morning, Eric, Ndu, and Mwalimu.
Good morning.
Good morning to you,
Salama.
Daniel.
Yes, according to my test, I think that the gradual opening is a resilient and informed idea from the health professionals. And what they did is that they were checking on the empirical formula of a transmission trend. And that's why you see the other sectors have not been opened and others have been opened. They were checking on the transmission trend. And as for money transfer, that exercise for the elderly is a long gone. Is a long gone story. I think about 3 weeks ago, I have a dad who has not been getting, he used to get. So that program halted, and I think without the elderly being informed. As for
When was the last time he received money, and how much?
It was 3 weeks ago. He got 1,000 Kenya shillings. Yes, and until to date, he has not got anything. It used to come on Monday.
Okay.
But nowadays, he's not getting anything.
That's actually different from the Inua Jamii, the elderly money. This is
Yes.
part of the 10 billion shillings that was going to the vulnerable households, where they were receiving 1,000 shillings every week. The elderly is where they receive annually. They receive about 2,000 bob. They're supposed to be receiving 2,000 bob every month. And when it was immediately announced an injection of a stimulus early in the year by the president, I think they were receiving a lump sum of 8,000 at a go. Does he recall receiving?
Okay, but they have the central coordination point, which was the administration office.
Right.
Yes. So apart from that, as for the school reopening, I think President was just right. But what they can do at this period before they announce the reopening is that they can send those psychosocial manual to the children, so that maybe the parents can take so that they can practice it in a home-based way to prepare the children psychologically for school, because people really thought that he was going to announce the reopening.
Okay.
So I think this psychosocial manual will help at least to prepare these children for for the educational processes.
Thank you, Daniel. 0719-012-600. We are asking whether you're confident of whether it's enough that with what the measures that the government announced yesterday, there'd be enough to support people to get back on their feet and so that the economy can start moving again, or whether that is enough from the government's perspective, and now it's about the people, the citizens themselves, to now also play their part. So when the person who's sent a comment and said, the government has done the best it could, it has offered tax waivers, it has foregone revenue, because that's what it is. And then it has also said some of the money that we are receiving, instead of putting in some projects, we have been doing these cash transfer programs for a long time. 10 billion shillings to the elderly, 10 billion shillings to the youth. And that's as much as far as the government could go. Now it's upon everybody else now to pick up the mantle from there. Let's go back to the phone lines. Boniface is calling in from Mukunda. Good morning, Boniface.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Yes, once again, I'm grateful for the great discussions you're having.
Thank you.
Yes, I just have a few contributions.
Okay.
First, I'll say I'm quite happy the directions the government is taking. Because when we started with high numbers of infections, you could see there was stringent measures. But now as the curve goes down and down and down, we see the government is easing up. So the effect of this is opening up the economy. You can see opening up the restaurants, the bars, and removing the containment measures. These are measures that are opening up the economy completely. And for us who are in business, we can see there are some big changes in how our businesses are opening. We can see customers now coming in. We are able to get products from across the counties and such like stuff. And then now, when you come to opening of the eateries, restaurants and bars, those are the area sectors that were strongly affected by the pandemic, because you realize they've been closed for quite a while.
Okay.
So opening them up, we are seeing people will go back to work. People will go to eat in those restaurants, injecting money into the economy.
That will be good.
And that has a magnified effect in the economy. So I'm quite happy. I think the government is measured, taking the right steps in the right direction.
Thank you, Boniface.
But now, where the challenge is now is the schools reopening, where I feel like it needs to be given quite deeper thought. Because at the same time we see the kids are intermingling freely at where they are. The bars are being opened, restaurants are being opened.
You want schools to be reopened?
I would say it needs to be given a good thought, and then things need to be clear how safety will be guaranteed for our kids.
Thank you.
The kids have to go back to school.
Thank you, Boniface. Let me pick other callers as well. Feni Mwarabu, good morning.
Morning.
How are you, Feni?
I'm fine. How are you today?
Very well, thank you. Calling in from Taita.
Yes.
All right, what's your opinion on this?
Maoni yangu,
Yes.
shule zifunguliwe, lakini from class 8 and form 4 only wapewe nafasi wafanye mitihani yao. And I think with that tutakuwa tuko sawa, kwa sababu kutakuwa na space, hakutakuwa na congestion kwa shule.
Okay.
Wakipewa nafasi hiyo itakuwa vizuri. Alafu point nyingine ni kwamba nimekuwa Western, nimekuwa different places. Wazee, elder people wanasaidiwa. Nimekuta watu wanapatiwa pesa, wanatumia pesa na serikali za kuwasaidia. Japo hazitoshi, lakini nafuu. Lakini sijaona huku kwetu, maana hata mimi ni mtu mzima. Lakini sijaona, na tumekuwa na hii janga la corona, tumekuwa na hatuna biashara, hatuwezi ajiriwa kazi tena, hatuwezi. Lakini hakuna msaada wote tunapata.
Kwani ni wapi haswa uko Taita?
Kwetu ni
Ronge.
Ndio.
Hakuna mtu yote unayejua ambaye ameweza kukueleza kwamba amepokea hizo senti?
Ni mtu tu aliongea, kuna mtu alipata. Sasa nikapata ofisa mwingine ambapo hausiki, but then I wanted to know.
Okay.
Find out from him. Karibu kumuulizia, akaniambia mama, hapa bado hazijaanza. Sasa niko kwa giza, sijui na sijui niende wapi, niende kwa DC ama kwa DO ama niende kwa chief, I don't know.
Anza kwa chifu.
Asante sana.
Asante Fanny.
Asante sana.
John in Nyandarua, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Good morning, fine.
We are fine, thank you.
Yes, very fine. I'm doing fine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I would say that which the president asked the Minister of Finance to maintain would only benefit a few people. Hello?
Mm-hmm.
John, we have an issue hearing you. Duncan in Kilgoris.
Yeah, how are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Let me start by saying that I was encouraged with the president's speech.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because things were going bad.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I had to do that, and I'm encouraged because now people have started going to their kutafuta small. Huh?
Yep.
That was very good. And then when it comes to kazi mtaani.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, when it comes to kazi mtaani, personally I'm a beneficiary because my wife is there working, getting a small, and the ambition she has is quite encouraging because each and every time they are getting 5,000 and 5, I don't know, something like of the sort, but it keeps on banking 4,000. At the end of it, you want to start a smaller computer, maybe one computer. You know, that one is encouraging.
So it has worked for you.
Yeah, it has worked, and it has started working. Even me, I'm seeing that burden is being lessened. So I encourage the government.
Thank you very much, Duncan. Thank you very much. Now, coming to 4 minutes to 9 o'clock, we'd like to say a very big thank you and good morning to our audience on KTN Home, because we'll be switching off on KTN Home. But the conversation continues on Spice FM 94.4 in Nairobi. We are in Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi, and we also stream worldwide on our social media handles, Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We like to remind you about taking advantage of this 100% waiver of penalties from the Nairobi City County government for anybody who has defaulted in paying their land rates. Now, you have bank accounts that you can pay to. They have the Cooperative Bank, National Bank, and also you can use the portal epayments.nairobi.go.ke or the mobile app NCCG ePayments. That's NCCG ePayments. Keep it right here. In the next hour, we also look at what the president said about the education sector.
Let us not focus ourselves on when schools will reopen, but how shall these schools open in a manner that protects our children and protects their lives and their health. Tafadhali, tusiwe tunapigana juu ya mambo ambaye, let us think first about their health and well-being, and once we have established how, then together we will agree when.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings.
Schools reopening, mixed opinion there. But as we come to the top of the hour, CT, just remind us today's proverb.
Today's proverb: a man who does not lie shall never marry.
This is from where again?
Zimbabwe.
It's a
Zimbabwean saying.
A man who does not lie shall never marry.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You know, you hear these things with the ear of a proverb and understand that the meaning is not always to be taken literally. Yes.
Tells you a lot about marriages then.
It does.
It tells you a lot about life.
About life.
Yes.
What you see is always...
It's not always what you get.
It's always pre-packaged and very well packaged.
Yes.
Don Meshach has posted a comment on Facebook, says the president is the only person who has some tough decisions to make, but he did all that he could to consider the Mwananchi from all corners of the country. And this is Donald from Pipeline. Thank you very much for your comment, Don. And in the next hour, keep it right here because we shift gears and still look at other aspects of the president's speech. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Wherever you are, even Malindi, Nyeri, Eldoret, Nakuru, Kisumu, Mombasa, in Nairobi, or watching us online on www.spicefm.co.ke or SpiceFMKE on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We appreciate you. Good morning. It's 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. Traffic.
Okay, so we still see a bit of the mess on Kiambu Road this morning, trying to get to the CBD, and that's because of the accident that took place, and they're still trying to sort that one out. It's slow on Mombasa Road this morning, all the way to the Cabanas, and that's from the SGR. Still continuing to see heightened levels of traffic there, as well as the Huru Highway getting to the CBD, going all the way to Westlands. So it's fading out a little bit, but it won't be too bad for too much longer. I don't think you should get stuck anywhere else, unless there's something that happens in terms of an incident or an accident. Hopefully not, but do let us know either way, and at least we can help to push you through. Spice FMKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Let us not focus ourselves on when schools will reopen, but how shall these schools open in a manner that protects our children and protects their lives and their health. Tafadhali, tusiwe tunapigana juu ya mambo ambaye, let us think first about their health and well-being, and once we have...
First, let's establish how, then move to the when. Listen to the president speak like that yesterday. It sounds that he is not convinced with the how that has been presented to him so far.
Sure.
Or probably there's no how that has been presented to him so far.
It was just speculation rife.
Yep. Maybe those that are actually speaking to him, and this would include, of course, the education CS, Professor Magoha, have said, we don't have anything ready yet, Mr. President.
Truth be told.
Truth be told, we don't have anything ready yet. Yes, we're still working in the background, but we haven't completely agreed on how that I can present to you. It's possible that Magoha went to the president and said, we're not ready, and the president announced that. It's also possible that Magoha went with various scenarios, and the president looked at them and poked holes here, poked holes there, and he was like, I am not convinced that this is the way to go. It's also possible, of course, that when he's receiving this report here, he's also receiving intelligence report, and he's hearing what the people across the country are saying. We are not comfortable, we are not confident that our children will be safe. And then the other bit that, of course, he would not be able to come out and speak openly, being the president, is that we do not have the financial capacity to take our children back to school yet. The president can't come out and say, we know you don't have money. No.
But it could be a reality.
It could be information that he has received. From even what we hear whenever we raise this issue, people are not ready. So, bottom line is the president stood there and said, all these others, yes, but school, no. He did not even say, let's first of all consider those
Candidates
who are
or-
candidates or even start considering the tertiary and TVETs. Absolutely. He just said, as long as it's school. Whether we're talking about adults who are in TVETs and university, or the younger ones who are going to the basic education up to Form 4. It doesn't matter.
And it's interesting because, look, even if you had the Ministry of Education saying that they were going to announce upon different stakeholders giving their information, you still had folks like the Council of Governors already saying that, you know what, across county, based on what my colleagues have said to me, we are ready. Let schools open. They even went further to advise and say, yes, we know. Same folks who said that they had bed capacity in June. We understand. Okay? But they went ahead and said, make sure, even as you're opening these schools, make sure that, especially for the ECD, the learning centers, make sure that you have a health facility within the learning institution. And if you don't, make sure that you have health centers in close proximity to these institutions. So the question became, okay, so do we start constructing these health centers? What exactly is supposed to happen to make sure of this? But from where they were coming from, counties, schools, ready to open. So I think, to an extent, because it's this information, if it reached the public, it reached the president's ears. And I honestly think that some of the things that were being proposed by whomever, he took the very clearly best option by saying, you know what, thank you very much for what you have said. However, it does not make sense to send our children back to school.
This is one of those where the president says, you know, what you're telling me is one thing. I also have other sources of information.
Exactly.
I have my other sources of information. Just like he told CJ Maraga in the JSC on the appointment of judges. I also have other sources of information. And what
they
you're
have
telling
told
me does not match with everything else that I've heard. So it's possible that the president was basically saying, yeah.
Yeah, it's possible that he heard all of this, He
but,
heard it all.
But I know where the scale tilts. However, at the same time, then it raises the question, and I don't recall the name of the gentleman who called from Mombasa, and even posited that, you know what, probably it's the merchants who want to benefit from the commercial side of education who are pushing this narrative and pushing for schools to reopen. People who have commercial interests in schools reopening are the ones who are really pushing for schools to reopen.
You know, it couldn't be very far from the truth. It's very possible that was the case, especially in light of what we are seeing in the recent days. The push really became something until we had people who said one thing 3 months ago, and then suddenly it's a belly turn, and they're saying something totally different. So you wonder, okay, where is this coming from? So then usually when you see such a flippant, when you see such you only see the flip side of things like that, then the next question is that, all right, is there a commercial interest here somewhere? And that was the need then to say, let's push for schools to open, because we had teachers who called. We have teachers who give us examples of even students who've said, okay, truth be told, nothing has been done. In this school, it's just a stone throw from where I am. And if I go and see, and that's just one example. I'm giving you an example of where my kids go to school, and absolutely nothing has been done in terms of preparation. Meanwhile, coming out of the mouth of the umbrella body of those who represent just private schools, what did we hear?
But you know, it was absolute logic. Look, if teachers haven't been to that school since March, how can a school say it's prepared?
Exactly. How do you say you're ready? Who prepared? What did you do? What did you do? Teachers themselves, they were told to come back to school on the 28th.
Yesterday.
Right? So then how did you get ready?
So
and then you're
how
telling
was
the
their
country that you're
preparation?
ready. Somebody wrote in and said, tell them to stop lying to us. And at the moment it sounded harsh, but actually it's the reality. Don't tell us that when you know that is not the case. So then it then gives rise to this possibility that there's somebody who's pushing this so that they can benefit commercially.
Actually, if you consider just the scandals that we have witnessed
Around COVID only.
Yes. You would assume before it became evident that there was scandals around it, that the seriousness of the disease would be borne in mind by all citizens, and that anything that relates to the eradication of COVID would be given one's full attention, and that we would actually, even the government and those in positions of authority, would focus their attention. We have seen the complete opposite. So, with that in the not too recent past in our minds, is it therefore alarming if someone should assume that the opening of schools is actually being pressurized by people who gain to benefit from it?
It actually is not.
It isn't, because it has been demonstrated clearly that there are people who actually do not give a flying hoot. Yes. So long as there's money to be made, it
People
doesn't,
can
on
die,
the back, it doesn't
others,
matter.
doesn't really matter.
They can die, resurrect again. It doesn't
So long
really
as there's
matter.
money that they've
Yes,
made, it really is okay. All those
There
other
are
things
people
don't
who
come
think like
into
that in
play.
this
Yes,
country.
that, unfortunately, that is the case. And that is true. Another thing that really stood out for me is that when you hear what the president said, he didn't say, tell me by Tuesday. Or tell me by the end of the month. No.
He didn't say
He
2 weeks.
He didn't say 2 weeks. He didn't even say 3 months. He said, figure out how. So what's clear? You guys just haven't figured out how. Whatever you've proposed until now doesn't make sense. So go back to the drawing board, figure out how. Once you've figured out how and it makes sense to everybody, then let's talk about
It was an
when.
indictment on the
that
education
was
ministry.
clear.
There's
You guys have been
absolutely
messing
nothing that you
around.
have presented to me that
Makes
makes
sense.
sense of how prepared you are.
So it was clear you are not prepared. And we're not going to throw children into this tailspin with your
The
unpreparedness.
question one must ask then is, what ails that ministry? Because how many pending issues have we discussed regarding that ministry in this very showroom?
Shall we go to my pet peeve?
Please.
October 31st, we were waiting for a report about the dilapidated state of schools in the country.
We
And they were
waited.
going to tell us how bad the situation was
Yes.
from that point,
Yes.
so that they could then use that information to fuel decisions going forward about how they were going to make sure that the proper infrastructure was present and available for young Kenyans to go to school. Till tomorrow.
Have you heard rumors, perhaps, that the report has been written, it just hasn't been made public?
I asked.
So there's
That's
no
not-
report.
No.
Okay, was there a team set up to work on the report?
There was a task force, not even team,
A task force.
Come on, dude. So a task force has not done a report yet?
Will it shock you?
All right. Eric, have you heard of the report?
No, I haven't. But I mean, if there's a
Or
task
just
force
assuming-
city, I mean,
oh,
you'd
if
assume
task force equals report.
You see, they're giving the term task force a bad name.
they have terms of reference. And
Yeah,
those
of
terms
course
of
they do.
reference are clear. This is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to do. And the output of your work is a
What did
report.
we have? What did we have? We had.
So
and
if
I
the
won't
task force
forget
has been
MP
dissolved,
Duale
then-
was found in his constituency giving the report with the help of local agencies to shut down schools. We had some random incidents coming out of Western Kenya, where again another one, yes, in Kisii, where the roof was falling down. That was what we heard. And then they were shut down. But in terms of from the ministry, this is the list of 158 schools. 27 don't have roof. 33 don't have this. We are shutting them down, and this is the action that we are going to take in the future. Nothing. No thing.
Well, but Eric, we shouldn't be very, very surprised. If you consider, for instance, and this one we can't lambast all the ministries in government, just pick on the
Just a
ones
few.
who have given us evidence to think the way we are thinking. If you consider, for instance, not just the Ministry of Health, and you ask yourself, how is it then, for instance, that we are the ministry actually finance here, finance, where the money comes from, expending money for a project that hadn't even begun.
It's stuff of the mystical and magical, isn't it?
You read it, you feel, no, this person didn't quite report this thing accurately. And then pictures begin to arrive. And the spot on which this particular lovely structure was supposed to have been put is as God made it. As they say in Kenya, even the grass wasn't cut.
So you wouldn't be surprised then when you hear something like what and he was really very polite about it yesterday. You would have read more if you liked, but really, all that you've been doing all this time, not convinced that you're able to then throw 1 million plus children, and we're just talking primary, not even gone secondary, 1 million plus children into that. You're not prepared.
The president
Get
said,
it together.
Let us not keep fighting over this. So it's like he was
There's a
addressing the
tussle there.
parents. I didn't get the impression that he was addressing the merchants, as we are calling them. It's like he was addressing it's like pressure is coming from the citizens that they want their children back to school.
I don't see that. I don't see that the address was being made to Kenyans. I see that within that ministry, it's just that it's not as glaring or as overt as what's happening in the Ministry of Health. But in the Ministry of Education, there are those on, even when this committee was formed, what did we hear? KNUT fighting on this side, KUPPET saying this and the other should not be done, TSC saying actually this is what we're going to put in place. That's where the fighting is. And you have those people who are standing behind these certain stakeholders who are saying, actually, you know
Interests.
what, let's push this particular thing because I have a vested interest there. I think that's where the fight is. And then in front of the CS who is trying to get information from these same people who have interests. What do you think they're going to do? And you think that because you see the president can't see it? I think that's where the fighting was being addressed. Let's stop fighting amongst ourselves and let's focus on the safety of our children. That was clear.
Those ones are not fighting. Those ones seem to be very well playing
They sing the same song.
Dancing to the same fiddle tune.
Yes.
Mhm.
The conductor of this orchestra is doing a very good job because they are saying the same thing. Let's gear towards reopening in October. If you look at the meetings that they held at Mtihani House and then they came again to the ministry, this is what they were saying. We are gearing towards reopening. Then the president comes and just slams the door shut on them
In
and
fact, you
says,
should have slammed it louder.
"Bam, bam, let's not fight over this."
In fact, you should have removed the door.
You know what is unfortunate is that you get the impression that some of those who are in leadership seem to think that the only way you can address the citizens of this country is by lying to them.
By telling them that we are prepared and everything is okay.
Well, yes, it's a lie
It's a
because
lie.
everything you're telling us, you've done something. There's nothing that has been done. You're prepared. There is nothing that remotely represents preparedness.
My friend, you try and challenge them on nothing. Tell you, come on. You know, it depends. Your definition of nothing, City, surely. If you cannot see, for example, that we've done this, the other. If you cannot see that we've held this number of meetings, then you don't know really the meaning of the word nothing.
Evidently, yes. Evidently, yes. That is certainly one way of looking at it. But if you consider that what I'm basing my judgment on is not piecemeal efforts that have been made, but the wholesome conclusion of certain activities that are supposed to arrive at the citizenry with certain results.
With tangible results.
That hasn't
and
happened.
visible results,
That
right.
has not happened.
Let's take a break, take a look at the weather. 17 minutes after 9. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM.
All right, it's 18 degrees, still mostly cloudy in Nairobi. It's likely to continue this way through the day. Highs of 27 and lows of 15. 26 to high and lows of 14 in Nyeri. Partly cloudy conditions at the moment. Mostly sunny in Nakuru at 17, going to highs of 25 with a chance of showers later on, coming down to a low of 13. Eldoret this morning is mostly sunny still, highs of 23 and lows of 12. Kisumu is partly cloudy at 19 degrees, highs of 28 and a chance of rains later on. Still forecasting for rain in Kakamega, highs of 26 and lows of 16. It's mostly cloudy in Mombasa at 26 degrees, going to highs of 29 and lows of 23. 29 will be the high in Malindi today with some rain expected later on with lows of 24. 26 as the high in Kampala, chance of rains later coming down to a low of 19. It's mostly sunny in Dar es Salaam at 25 degrees, going to highs of 31 and lows of 22. Still foggy in Johannesburg at 9 degrees, highs of 24. In Lagos, the thunderstorms continue, and we've been told it will continue well into Wednesday, with highs of 28 and lows of 23 today. Let's look into Beijing, where it's getting close to evening and mostly sunny at 17 degrees. Experience some rain showers as they go into Tuesday night. In London, the light rain showers continue at 16 degrees and the drizzle will continue for most parts of today, then going to highs of 17. And in Paris, still cloudy conditions and a chance of a sprinkle later on. Actually, they have started already and the rains will continue well into Wednesday with highs of 19 and lows of 13 today. And we'll wrap things up in New York for now, where sunny conditions will rule most parts of the morning as they wake up. Clear conditions and then thunderstorms later with highs of 24 and lows of 19.
Spice and everything nice. All right, okay.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
21 minutes
94.
after 9. This conversation continues. So the president directed that, first of all, get a proper way of ensuring that the children are going to be safe. And then let's discuss the how, the when. But before that, let's not even contemplate this conversation. And this is coming against the backdrop of what we had seen happening at the Ministry of Education. First, there was a meeting of stakeholders, the key stakeholders in the education sector. This included the teachers' unions, ministry officials, school heads, private school heads, even medical experts coming to say, looking at how the curve is looking, we can then start thinking of probably some resumption of school-going activity, maybe starting with the candidate classes of Standard 8 and Form 4, and also looking at maybe the colleges as soon as the month of October. And we've heard conversations. The teachers' unions, led by NAT Secretary General Wilson Sosion, says we are ready. The best performing MP, Milemba, the chairman of Kupet, says we are ready. The Kenya Private Schools Association says we are ready. The Council of Governors says we are ready.
And then they just came and in one fell swoop dismissed everything. Can you imagine? People have been sitting down for 2 weeks. He sat down for 2 weeks, went through, talked, did everything. And they came and said, thank you very much. But everything that you've put together, the many reports, it's very painful. The many reports that you've put down together, the many meetings long, well into the night that you sat down and they said everything that you people have talked about now, it doesn't make sense. Children are not going anywhere. So it should actually give you some insight into the fact that, like you said, this education sector, we really need to look at it and say, guys, the decisions that we've been making in the past, this should probably shine some light and say, guys, we need to put a spanner here and tighten things, remove parts that are not working, and get this machine moving. Because, like you said, they didn't even give an option. Look at the sectors, like, for example, the religious institutions. Okay, we've been doing 100, maintaining social distance, etc., etc. Okay, let's move it up to 200. Look at the hospitality sector. All right, we've not been selling alcohol. We've been closing at a certain hour for restaurants. Okay, let's open it up a little bit and see what we can do.
Yep.
All of the recommendations that you made, not one did they say,
What I
all
fail
right,
to
we
understand,
can accept this one and bring it in. Why?
like exactly, for example, why not tertiary colleges and
Why?
universities?
That's the thing. What?
These are not children.
What
These are people
recommendation
above
were you
18
making? Sure.
who are in TVETs, who are in universities and other colleges. Why not reopen those? Why not consider and
The
even say
president
that
has
you
learned the hard way.
that
The government budgeted, disbursed 5 billion shillings to all the counties of this country in an effort to try and see how best they could ensure there was ample preparedness should the COVID pandemic overwhelm the hospitals that they already have. And the same Council of Governors, when they were asked about the preparedness, resoundingly said yes. In fact, just 21, I think, of the counties are the ones who are not prepared. The president said, okay, I've heard you. Sent an audit team to go and determine if these things were true, because what was expected was known. It wasn't, there was no hit and miss.
Yep.
This is what you're supposed to do with the money, increase bed capacity, do this, do the other. Only 5 counties were prepared. 5. 42 had lied outrightly. Or should I say, the Council of Governors had lied on their behalf. Now, if you're the president, would you actually believe what you're being told? You'll say, okay, I've heard you. Then he sends his team out.
To check their
And told Mr. President, these guys aren't prepared. I know they're telling you this, but they're not prepared. Because a checklist was given. This is what constitutes preparedness. It's not as though it was not up in the sky, sort of, this is what constitutes preparedness.
Yep.
And you've got a pen ready, you can't take because you can't see it.
And I really think that that's what it was, because you know what? There's so many other things that could have come into play, because he didn't stay back from mentioning some of these things in the other sectors that he talked about. He could have easily said, all right, you guys are prepared, but because of the weight of the economy, parents are not able to send their children back to school, so let's wait it out a little bit. Okay, maybe that's just something that you put on the back burner. He could have also said, there's not enough funding from government at this point to put in some of the things that we wanted. There was nothing like that. It was just it was just that whatever recommendations that you've brought
That's
to us
exactly what he says.
doesn't make sense.
What if those 2 reasons that you've just given are the true reasons that the president did not make this announcement, but he was not going to come out and say that the government does not have money to reopen schools?
So he
to
wants
facilitate
say
the
that maybe
reopening of schools.
So he would have shrouded those reasons
Yes.
under the reason of preparedness from schools.
Yes.
We know for a fact that they were not ready, Eric.
Yes, we do know. We do know that, but also we know, based on everything else, like we've seen in the government, there's absolutely nothing that could have stopped the government from reopening those schools. We are not ready. Just open. We were ready, didn't you see?
Children.
Did your children not wash their hands? Okay,
This is where I think
probably there's a reason. The other reason is the reason that the president could not come out and say maybe they are not financially prepared to facilitate the reopening of schools at this point.
This is where I believe this arm of government we refer to as intelligence comes in. Because they do have their finger on the pulse of the nation.
They do.
And they will know, everything else you may get away with, but the moment it gets to children, now you're touching a really, really raw nerve. And that one, even people who ordinarily would simply stare at you and not say a thing will stand up. Forget staring. They'll stand up and say, excuse me. Now, it is possible that whatever monies we had, or the money that had been put aside for this, has proved to be inadequate. It is also possible the money just doesn't exist. There are endless possibilities. But the reality is this. When that budget was read, that budget included a budget for education. And it was not just a budget for paying teachers. No, it was a budget for ensuring that certain projects within the Ministry of Education...
Budget is not money.
Yes. But there was money that was even given to schools. This is where I'm going with this discussion. And then it was withdrawn again. Okay.
But it was put elsewhere.
It was put elsewhere.
How much is the government raising on a monthly basis?
Now, you've actually gotten to the heart of the
Sahi
matter.
tumefika where we are at right now, we are disbursing money for counties. After having delayed their money for how many months? 3 months. Money is being disbursed to counties so
As
that
we speak.
workers can go back to work.
Yes.
Right? So that is cash that's just coming, gone. And then now you bring in at another whole education sector right now. Hey, boss. You're being ambitious, but hata kama niko na pesa ni sawa. I had promised I had even budgeted it, but I don't have the money right now.
And you know something?
Liquidity issues, bana.
That may very well be the case, but the Ministry of Education could have just said so.
They can't.
Why?
Why not actually?
This premise that you talk about of just telling people the truth. Just say, what is it?
There is
Why?
no time when there is once when I think the CS for the Treasury mentioned something about being cash strapped and the kind of backlash that he received because of what that statement alone does to everything else, the lending, the financial markets, everything else, that statement, the government is broke. Ha. Bas. You cannot say that. You cannot come out to say, I don't have money. It has adverse
But the
effects.
truth is, that statement is actually not true. You've heard me say it on many occasions.
That they don't have money.
No, they have money.
Pesa imelala pale kwa bank.
They have money. Inalalaka kwa bank kawaida. They actually have money.
How much? So how much do
The
they have?
government collects money daily. Daily. So what are you telling me?
Remember, there's one thing that CS Kibicho told us. Remember, in government, government does not collect money at you and put somewhere.
No,
and
they
save.
spend it.
It comes, it goes. Now, depending on the pipeline bringing in and the pipeline taking out, you'll have an imbalance.
What
if the pipeline bringing in? Because right now we know many government's revenue collection.
The pipeline is narrow.
Is very narrow.
We know it's narrow.
And the need, especially now with this, money needs to go to the counties, expand. We are still paying salaries. We are paying loans. We are.
If for once,
it's just like balancing and playing around. So just delay this school opening thing until we finish this bit now.
If once in a while people are actually made to work for the money that they've been earning all along, what's the problem?
It's painful.
Think through this thing and solve the problem. Why do you think they're there?
What? I'm going to earn at the end of this month, but I actually have to do the work. Wow. It's a phenomenon that people
do
have
the
not,
work.
It's a phenomenon that people have not been used to for years, City. And
Do
now
the work. They've been talking at these problems. Now it's time to actually do something. We've tolerated the talking.
Now it's enough.
Do. Look, even with the money that comes in, even if it isn't adequate as it may be argued, but it's still there.
Start with something, man.
It's there. We're not a failed state. We're not these countries where Yani of saying the truth. There's no money of real. Yani, it doesn't exist. Okay?
There's money.
Nothing. If you shake the piggy bank,
there's money. Public servants have been paid.
There's money.
And this now is at the end. Public servants have been paid across all cadres. And then money is also going to the counties to pay all public servants across all.
There's
so
money.
there's money. There's money to operate these things. The thing is, if you increase that demand right now, then are you going to have sufficient money to fund all these things at once? The issue is at once. Maybe not. Well, I'm just being conspiratorial this morning. 28 minutes to 9.
What you're saying makes sense, Eric. What you're saying makes sense.
Let's take this break, take a look at the traffic, and then we continue the conversation. 0719 012 600. You can call in and contribute.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up. Spice up your life.
Okay, so today it's thicker. Swap places with Mombasa Road from yesterday. The accident on Kiambu Road, still trying to clear that out, guys. Remembering that there was oncoming traffic anyway, traffic in both directions. And because of this accident, they're not able to move any of that out of the way. There is heavy traffic between Kahawa and Dani and Clay. Okay, let's start again. Between Githurai and Clay City. So, however, you can use the service lane from Sukati to Siokim, to Roy Sambo rather, and you can get out of that without too much of a problem. But the snarl up is very, very long today. So it's Thicker Road, unfortunately, where we're going to have to leave blood, sweat and tears, unfortunately. But we know that the service lanes can be used. Everywhere else seems to be flowing a lot better. Brown Obara is here, so that means Mombasa Road is not too terrible, right? Right. Spice FM KE on Twitter. Get to us through the rest of the day.
Are you ready?
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94
light on the education ministry.
Yeah, now it's time to get your act together. I mean, look, everybody's looking at you anyway, so you might as well do something that is going to make the stairs worthwhile, as they say. If you're going to stare, make it worth looking at. Do something with the opportunity that you're going to get things right. Get it right. Come on, man. These are children that this is an education sector that countries around the world are known because of their education.
Some of them are not children, really.
Children here is a generic term
Yes.
that means that there are people who still rely on others older than themselves to
Their
look
For their livelihoods,
Yes,
their
yes,
dependents.
good word, that one. Dependents.
Okay.
Yes, here.
So this 22, 23-year-old who is in their final year of university, why can't they go back to school?
Because he's not going to school alone.
That is what else?
He's going with
Going
other
people.
Yes.
Of that same age.
And that
those same habits.
yes, and if you say that the children, the students in their final year, again, they're not alone, and even those universities may not necessarily have the wherewithal to ensure that the students learn in a safe environment.
Why?
Why haven't they prepared? That's the question that we ask. Why are they not prepared? Why are the universities and tertiary institutions?
Because there's
and
some
colleges
people
not
who are
ready?
saying that they're not going to school alone, they're going with others. These are the same people who you've opened bars for and restaurants. This is where they're going to be meeting.
You know, you've introduced a different discussion, Chief.
You're talking about the same person.
No,
So you're
no.
saying that this person
I
cannot
said
go and sit in
discussion.
school.
Discussion. School is not a place of leisure. Okay?
As is a bar.
Place of learning.
As is a bar.
Uh-huh.
Yes, okay? Well, I guess even in a bar you can learn. But the point is this. Not everyone who is a student and is 23 years old goes to a bar. Start there.
Yeah,
right?
they'll go elsewhere. They'll have this.
And even
they'll
if
meet.
yes, and even if they don't go to a bar, they've been going to places of leisure anyway with COVID.
Yeah.
The reason why the issue of the hospitality industry, why it's obvious, I'm sure the state knows that people have been having drinks. People, the very things that you're trying to prevent, they've been doing anyway. You said, okay, guys, we've got the message. You're not going to obey this, so let's extend the time so that you don't have to break curfew.
The rules.
Yes, and we don't have to keep arresting you every day.
So
Yes.
just do it till 11.
Yes, till 11. Though you'll still do it until midnight, and I will have very good reason to arrest you.
Let's hear from Agnes Wenjiro Ndungu, who's calling from Kwale County. Good morning, Agnes.
Good morning. My name is Agnes Wanjiro from Kwale County.
Right.
Good morning, Agnes.
Yes, jana nilisikia rais akisema kuhusu pesa zenye zinaingia kwa simu. Na mimi ni mama mwenye niko na watoto wawili na sina mume, najitegemea na kazi yangu hata corona ilifanya iharibike, pia nikaibiwa. Saa hii sina kazi na kuna
We've lost Agnes. John, let's try and get her back. I guess she's talking about not receiving any of this cash transfer money. Right? The same that we heard from Feni Mwarabu. So I think the way that people were receiving the money, there was an issue of, registration, and then you get into the database and you go on with that. So let's hear, Agnes is back. Agnes, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Aya, ulikuwa unasema uko na watoto wawili. Na
Yes,
umesikia kuhusu
walikuwa
pesa ambazo
wako
zinatumwa.
Mmoja ako class 6, mmoja ako class 3. Na mimi kama mimi sikupata pesa kwa simu wala msaada nilipata mara moja. Wakati wa kwanza corona ilipotangazwa tulipata chakula mara moja.
Wapi?
Kwa simu sijawahi pata msaada yoyote.
Kuna watu katika kijiji chako ambao umejua wamepata pesa? Kuna watu majirani zako ambao wamepata pesa?
Kuna msichana mmoja tu nilisikia akisema amepata pesa kila wiki na mimi sikuona kwa simu yangu.
Yeye alipata vipi? Alikuwa amejiandikisha ama walijuaje namba yake?
Okay, mimi siwezi nikajua. Sasa ni wewe unielezee ili nifuatilie nijue nitafanyaje nipate.
Naweza kushauri Hebu muulize huyo rafiki yako ambaye unajua amekuwa akipata pesa, muulize alijiandikisha wapi na mambo kama hayo. Alafu pia enda katika ofisi ya chifu hapo karibu. Enda kwa ofisi ya chifu uulize, chifu, nimesikia kuna watu wanapata pesa na mimi nikijiangalia niko na haja ambayo ningependa usaidizi kutoka kwa serikali. Akwambie unaweza jisajili vipi ndio upate huu usaidizi kutoka kwa serikali.
Asante sana, Mungu akubariki.
Asante Agnes.
Nitaenda.
Haya. 0719-012-600 if you'd like also to contribute to the conversation that we are having. We are talking about the education sector, but the issue that is emerging here, we are coming to the end of the cash transfer programs. Feni from Taita, Agnes from Kwale, they're saying,
never received.
I'm hearing the president talking about people receiving money. Who's receiving this money? I definitely am in need.
What though?
I have children.
Yes.
I don't have means of sustaining my family. I would appreciate assistance. So who's receiving this assistance?
What is really true? Where do they get this money through, or whom do they get the money from or through?
Who? The people who've been receiving money?
Yes. Where do you collect this money from?
It comes to your M-Pesa. Every Tuesday on M-Pesa, 1,000
All
shillings.
right. And who is it who ensures that your details are sent to that particular forum where the money can be released, and that sound that you've just made is made on their phone? Yes.
That is now where the question comes in. Right? You would expect, because the money is actually distributed and the management of this cash transfer is done through the Ministry of Interior.
Yes.
Because you're using the NGAOs, the National Government Administrative Officers. NGAOs.
Every time.
It's the NGAOs.
And by the way, it isn't a play on the word girls. Huh?
So if you go to the NGAOs, they'll show you how you're supposed to be receiving this money. Local chief, basically, the reason why you have a local chief who is somebody from your locality is because this person understands the neighborhood.
And even knows you.
Knows the people, the people who are in need. Okay? So if maybe they were given a number and told we only need 5 people from your location, then they maybe looked at who is the most needy. Then in that order, I'll take the 5 most needy people and I've handed in the names. So if, for example, Agnes went and asked and she was told, Najua lakini, my challenge was the number of people. And you see so and so, you can understand, blah, 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 blah. This is why I chose them. But I think those are the questions that now the national government officials should be able to be answering. Or even that's the information that they should be having.
But remember, we discussed this matter of disbursements when it was only disbursements for those who are elderly and infirm.
Yep.
And even then, there was the issue of delayed remittances. Someone has received money for the last X number of months, they haven't received. This problem of receiving money has always been there.
Yep.
And I would assume that if then you're remitting money to even more people, then you'd hear more of the same. And then remember, people who need to register with the chiefs. Remember the kazi kwa vijana mtaani, that one? Yes. We also heard rumblings that the monies that they were supposed to receive wasn't quite the amount.
Yeah.
But again, the issue of the money was clarified for us when we understood that money being paid into their phones, especially for those who fell in the category of the youth, there were little details of debts that their phones had.
Right. So by the time the money came in,
the debt sorted itself out, and then gave the owner of the phone the recipient. Yeah. Which balance the recipient was clearly not happy with, but there it was. But remember also there was a story of those who determined that you receive this money also wanting their cut. This disease of ours.
I told you, it's the commercial thing.
There was also the issue. Remember we spoke to some fisher folk from Kilifi, a village in Kilifi. Of course, because of the curfew, hey. It's one of those days. Because of the curfew.
Carry on.
Their businesses.
Yes.
Their fishing was interrupted. And then they were told that they required to register with the local administration. Kaambiwa tupeleke majina yetu tukajiandikisha mahali fulani. They went and they jiandikishad. That was the end of communication. They never heard what happened
And you know,
beyond
fishermen are
that.
very organized. There's something called a BMU, a beach management unit. So you are registered there. So this thing of registration, taking names, not difficult.
Yeah.
But when it was at the BMU known, when it was moved from BNU taken somewhere else, that's it.
Unknown.
It remained taken there.
Yep.
Nothing else happened after that.
Let me go to the phone lines here because Aaron is calling in from Eldoret. Good morning, Aaron.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
We're
Good,
fine.
thank you.
I have a contribution, and particularly to do with CS Magoha. The CS has proved to be, I don't know what, an enigma in this COVID situation, because at first the CS came out and said that the schools, we have cancelled the 2020 academic year, and then he came out and reported to, I remember there's a time a journalist asked about the school reopening, and CS Magoha answered him rudely, and I was surprised. I remember he told him that, which part of English don't you understand?
Right.
Yes, is that right?
Yeah.
Then, in such a point, Uhuru Kenyatta came in and yesterday and said that the schools are not reopening anymore. And I remember that the Magoha had formed a committee that discussed about the Education Response Committee, and they say that schools are not reopening. Then they came again and said schools are reopening.
Yep.
Now, the contradiction is bringing us to, it has confused many parents, confusing the students, and I think that the president, and there's a disconnect between the president and the CS Magoha and the stakeholders of the education committee. Okay. Now, my point is, I wish they could come out clean and agree on one thing, because it's bringing the nation to a halt.
Creating a lot of confusion. I think, Aaron, it's quite windy in Eldoret this morning, right?
Yes, it is windy a lot.
Yeah, we can tell that. We can tell. So we're actually not very clear on the line. But thank you very much for calling in. And the point made, it's about let there be harmony in terms of communication. Harmonized communication from the ministry, from all arms of government. Say one thing. Don't tell us, we may reopen, and then the boss comes and says, no, you're not going to reopen. And then it's all creating a lot of confusion. Let's take a break at 13 minutes to 10 o'clock. It's a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. How to take advantage of this 100% waiver on penalty and interest by the Nairobi City County Government on land rate defaulters. This window expires on the 15th of October. It started on the 15th of September. It expires on the 15th of October. What you need to do is go to obtain your bills and invoices from City Hall Cash Office, the Makadara Cash Office, Times Tower Ground Floor Banking Hall. Payments through Cooperative Bank require their payment slips to be presented to this cash offices, that is the City Hall Cash Office, Makadara Cash Office, or Times Tower Ground Floor. The other bank that you can pay to is the National Bank and or Cooperative Bank, or you can also use the web portal epayments.nairobi.go.ke or the mobile app NCCG ePayments. As we go to this break, and somebody's reporting an accident on Southern Bypass.
Yeah, there's another accident this morning. Okay, so on the Southern Bypass, I'm not sure exactly what part that is, but again, vehicles have decided to greet each other in an unconventional manner. So please approach with caution, guys.
Right. All right. 12 minutes to 10.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM, Nakuru. Spice up your life.
So the conversation continues right here on Spice FM at 12 minutes to 10 o'clock. I've received a message from Nick One on Twitter. It says, Eric, I'd like to send something to Agnes Wanjiru, the mother of two from Kwale County, who's just called Spice FM. saying she hasn't received any assistance through her phone. All right, Nick, we're going to give you her number and you can get in touch with her. And this is highly appreciated. 0719 012 600. Back to the issue of education and then the way forward. What's the way forward here?
I don't know, but it's interesting what Mercy's saying. Mercy Jepkeme says, with me, no, I expected him to lift the curfew completely to allow the 24-hour business operation. I expected schools of higher learning to reopen at least 1 or 2 classes because at least they can meet the guidelines by the Ministry of Health. If we keep on waiting for the guidelines to be reviewed, then it could take up to 5 years. This is Kenya, she says. We know other things are completely impossible. Achieving these guidelines by the Ministry of Education is hard and will take the longest time possible. How certain are we that we won't miss to reopen come January? Anything can happen. We might fail again.
Wow. So now, mnatakaje?
You know, the thing is, part of what we hear is, should we say, a reflection of expectations that are not being met.
Yep.
Personal expectations. But then there is also the understanding of the seriousness of the disease on the country. Remember, there was a time where even if, let us say, we had only 2 people with COVID in the country, the fact that our neighbors were affected and were responding to it, it would affect us, whether we wanted it or not.
Or not, for sure. Yeah.
You couldn't cross borders, you couldn't do certain things. So the impact of COVID and the global impact is something you can't run away from. Now, the reality is this. Anytime something affects the world as this particular disease has, well, the truth is it's never happened. We've had issues, yes. We've had swine flu, we've had measles, we've had smallpox. But nothing on this scale has ever visited this planet. Nothing. Perhaps because we travel as much as we do, whatever the reasons may be. Now, if you ask me, I would say this. Because of the nature of this disease, even as we make suggestions, usually it's based on our experience and understanding and what has worked in the past. This one requires rethinking even of the solutions.
It does.
Because the solution may seem like it can work, but it may not necessarily work given the circumstances that we find ourselves in. And sometimes maybe the Ministry of Education are doing what they can, but if they're thinking the way they've thought before in the past about solving the problems, this particular problem will not be solved.
But you see, the government is taking a lot of credit for, the things that have happened in this country over the last. Watching yesterday's conference at KICC and seeing, speaker after speaker talking about,
we have done.
This is what we have learned. For example, just because of COVID, we have increased our commercial capacity, our manufacturing capacity. Our PPEs are now done locally. We have people who are now making ventilators locally. What else have we done? Because of COVID-19, working in partnership with county governments, we have 312 ICU beds and 7,411 isolation beds nationally. This was done in 6 months. These achievements are indeed phenomenal. This is according to the president. Taking a lot of credit for all the actions. So this thing of telling them that, you need to think differently as far as they're concerned. Best thinkers, best implementers, best execution of everything, all plans that have. That's why we are at 4.4% now in terms of positivity rate for COVID-19.
The president read what he had
was
been
written
told
for him.
was a representation of the truth. But 4%.
I don't think the efforts. I don't think the efforts are what have reached that 4.4%. And I also am going to say I don't think the 4.4% is a true representation of the COVID footprint in Kenya.
It isn't.
I don't think so.
It isn't. We actually don't know.
We don't know.
We honestly don't
And
know.
the things that would furnish this knowledge are not being done. So you
We don't
can't
know.
tell. We don't know.
We don't know either.
Honestly, I think those numbers have been given. Yeah, okay, fine. However, it's
Yes.
not the truth.
But you see, in the records of the government, that is what the government is saying. And that's why I was saying earlier, we are lying to ourselves as government and as a people that it is because of our efforts
It is not.
that, COVID has not done to us what it's doing to Brazil, what it's doing to Spain or
The
Italy.
government hasn't lied there. They haven't. Not really. If you consider the restrictions that were placed when COVID hit, well, our shows again,
Mhm.
right? Lock Nairobi, lock Mombasa,
Yep.
lock. You cannot say, in all honesty, that that did not have a positive effect. It did.
For how long? Yes, it did. For how
Because
long?
we recognize epicenters and we simply ensured we choke that virus and keep it within that particular epicenter.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, this is, on paper, sounds absolutely correct. But you and I were here, and we were talking about this epicenter and how it's leaking.
At least
through the seams.
True.
How,
The
yes, you had locked down, but you did not restrict movement within Nairobi. 5 million people were mingling as they wished within this city.
Yes.
So even if we had now, the first case was somebody who was in Rongai, and then another case was where Kawangware, we had Isli, we had Pockets, we had Westlands, we had Langata. There's absolutely nothing that was slowing
But
down.
It wasn't spreading to the rest of the country.
It was. Well, it could have.
No, with the seepage, yes, it could, but I'm saying it was restricted. It
True.
was limited.
So let's say, and this is what I had said, that let's say that we created this petri dish in Nairobi, allowed it not to go to the rest of the country, but spread nicely within Nairobi. After you're satisfied that it has spread nicely, open up Nairobi and say, now Nairobi, go to the rest of the country. Nairobi went to the rest of the country.
Why are you leaving Mombasa out of this equation?
And Mombasa and Kwale and Kilifi, right? If on paper we were saying, okay, so you have this, it could spread, and then we're looking at how viral and contagious this virus really is. Really, CT.
No. The government
Look at what
does-
happened in Italy. What happened in Italy? They locked down, but people had moved from one place. They decided to take off overnight. And that movement overnight
It's what
contributed
caused
to
the
a
problem,
lot.
actually.
Look at South Korea. People went to visit
Eric,
one another
Eric,
in a church,
Eric,
in
I'm
hospital.
in agreement with
Pop,
you.
pop,
Look at
spread.
what happened during the summer.
Hmm.
People went to the beaches.
Yes.
The number shot up. I am saying this, that I cannot discount what the government has done. That's all I'm saying. They did do something, and we have benefited from the steps they took. That is actually the truth. We have benefited. Not as much as we may have wished to or may have wanted to, but we have benefited.
So, are those measures the ones that we give credit to where we are at right now?
I think
that the country is not like Brazil, is not like Mexico, is not like Spain and Italy, where Spain and Italy got. It's not even like South Africa.
Eric, to be very honest, that's the puzzle. Even if you look at the numbers with reference to the testing that we've done, and we say we haven't done adequate testing, and you look at the numbers that we have, as I said, other indicators like those who are actually sick in hospital, the services being adequate for the needs, services being overwhelmed. Those indicators don't show that we have this burden, this overarching burden that was prescribed. It doesn't. So no one can give a comprehensive answer and say, to be honest, it is our immune system, it is this. The government is taking credit.
But the one thing that I'm saying that we cannot do is we cannot give 100% credit to the government.
No, I agree.
Or and
I
say
know, I agree.
that it's because
I
there was
agree, Eric.
lockdown. For example, and say at the Wuhan lockdown, people stay indoors, therefore you have reduced the
We didn't have a
movement
Wuhan
of this.
lockdown.
No,
we
no,
didn't.
no. There was
We
not
didn't
a
even have
Wuhan
a Kampala or Kigali lockdown.
No, we didn't.
We didn't even have a Johannesburg lockdown.
No, we didn't. But we had a lockdown.
So here we are. Because of the efforts that we took, immediately this arrived in the country. Because of the measures that we've been taking so far in the last
We have
6
seen
months,
the numbers drop to
this
4.4%,
is why
right,
we
okay.
are where we are. No, mimi sikubali.
Mimi, unfortunately on that one,
Wewe unakubali.
no, nakubali ya kwamba the government made an effort, and that effort has contributed to some serious positivity. That is what I am saying.
Yeah.
The citizenry also have done their bit, because when we have examples of people riding in ambulances while getting drunk in the same ambulances, we feel this thing is out of control. But that's one case. What about the cases of the many Kenyans who actually abide by what was required? They stay at
Stayed
home,
home from
they look after themselves, they do everything that is required. If they didn't, then perhaps the spread would have been infinitely worse. So, government can take their bit of this particular slice, but the
enjoy it.
citizenry should also take their bit, because they have.
Still a lot of work to do, though, guys.
There is. You see, the thing is, we're focusing on we are focusing on the misrepresentation. You know, there are these
focusing
individuals
on
who
the
said,
reality. Anyway, coming to the end of the show, CT, remind us today's proverb.
yes, you are going to come, they want you. A man who does not lie shall never marry.
So what do you want?
Think about it and consider that sometimes putting your best foot forward and claiming that that is all that you are may not necessarily be true.
Yeah, right. Asante sana for tuning into the Situation Room today. Join us again tomorrow, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. CT Muga. Ndu, of course, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
And I'm Eric Latif. We'll see you again tomorrow. So between now and 3 o'clock, you have uninterrupted music, sugar and spice and everything nice. And then Monique will be here from 3 to 7. The adults in the room, Eric, Barbara, and Emmanuel. 7 to 10. Good morning. It's 10 o'clock. Have a great day, folks.